Indeed, it is The Drive. It's a Friday edition. Happy Good Friday to all of you. SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. It is April 7, 2023. It's my episode 315. And no, my name is not Brian Wilson. Yes, please, if you don't mind. I'm begging of Pamela Fur to close my door there. You can probably see that. Bye. Bye. Thank you, Pamela, for filling in for me from noon until 3, as I fill in for Mr. Wilson from 3 until 7 o'clock, or they boot me off the radio, whichever comes first. Obviously, on what I refer to as I think Brian calls it, Chris, it's a Phone Your Farb Friday. That's right?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, Wilson is the Farb. So I couldn't very well call it, although it's still his show, I couldn't call it a Phone Your Farb Friday. That'd be wrong.
That wouldn't be prudent.
That wouldn't be right. So I will just call it what I normally do, and that's a First Amendment Freestyle Friday, giving you the opportunity to speak truth to power about any subject matter of your choosing at any time of your choosing. You might have to wait if you overlap with one of our scheduled guests. We have Representative Jody Barrett coming on at 4:05 this afternoon. Jody was with me on my show earlier in the week talking about the possibility of expulsion votes. And he was one of the Republicans, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News spoke to one of the other flippers, where you had 7 Republicans that voted in favor of expulsion for Pearson and Jones, who flipped and did not vote in favor of expulsion for Gloria Johnson. And the question is, what was the difference? We will get the answer from Jody Barrett, at least from his perspective, coming up at 4:05 this afternoon. At 5:05 today, the Speaker of the House, who was master of ceremonies during the expulsion proceedings yesterday afternoon, will be with us on the program. Cameron Sexton joins us just after the 5 o'clock news on The Drive on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Looking forward to both of those conversations. Looking forward to your thoughts on it. Generally, I feel like most Tennesseans were ready to see expulsion. You know, I've come around on it. I admit it is a rare subject matter that I float back and forth. They call it waffling, but you know what? I worked at Waffle House for long enough to know that waffling is not an appropriate term. So the term waffling is used to illustrate someone flip-flopping on an issue. Well, there's a problem with that term, and it's long stuck in my craw, and it's high time that I shared it with the Nashville audience. So if you flip-flop, we are told that you are waffling. Chris Webber, do you know what you don't? This is especially amusing to me because I don't think Chris was listening to me. Do you know what they call a flip-flopper a waffler, right?
Right.
That's a commonly used term.
Yeah.
Do you know why that's wrong?
I do not.
You don't flip a waffle.
That's a very good point.
You flip a pancake.
So they should be pancakers.
That's exactly right. So we're not going to call them wafflers on this show. We're going to call them pancakers.
Very good.
One way. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Weber. I'll be back with you momentarily.
It's logical.
Well, it's stuck in my little craw because I worked at Waffle House, and I've made enough waffles to know that there's no flipping involved. You put the stuff in, you slam the thing down, you wait 3 minutes, you pop it open, you put it on a plate, and you serve it to some drunk over there at the table at the end of the Waffle House.
I resemble that remark.
Well, plenty of people do. Trust me. I can tell you. You know what? One of these days, I can tell you stories about Waffle House, about people going through plate glass windows that aren't supposed to break, and fights breaking out. And I told you the story one time about giving the guy the cash register, right?
I have not heard that story.
So, well, I didn't. One of our employees did. So you're taught not to be a hero in those circumstances, right? If someone comes in and tries to rob you, you give them the money. That money is not worth your life. Don't be a hero. And what we are taught in training is that don't bother. You know, you open up the cash register and you've got all those slots with all the money in it. The idea is don't bother counting all that money out. Don't bother grabbing each individual. Just take the entire tray and just give it to them and get them out of the store. The goal is to get them out of the store as quickly as possible. Carrollton, Georgia, this is probably 1993, somewhere around in there, 94 maybe. Working third shift. I'm on the grill. I'm actually in the back when this happens. All of the employees have been taught the same thing. Don't be a hero. Guy comes in, shows a gun, give me your money. They unplugged. The woman reached under the counter, unplugged the register and handed this man the entire register. The dude looked confused. He leaves. And I was like, what are you? That's what they told us to do. That's what they told us to do. All right. Good for you.
Close enough, I guess.
Well done.
You got him out of there. So
he's gone. Nobody's hurt. Oh, well and good. Anyway, I can tell you a lot of stories. But anyway, these 7 Republicans are being identified as somewhat of flip-floppers. But I've spoken to enough representatives in the body, and I've not directly spoken to any of the 7 that changed their vote on Gloria Johnson to tell you this. They would say that there are subtle differences between what Gloria did and what Pearson did, and what Gloria did and what Jones did. What I would say to you is it's all or nothing for me. And what I will ask Jody Barrett, and Jody, if you're listening, this is the first question after we establish, exactly what went down. Did she break the rules? Did she break the rules? If she broke the rules, then you treat her with the same dynamic as you treat the other 2. It's as simple as that. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the politics of all of that, and there are a lot of politics going on, it is expected that the Metro Council will immediately... Now, it takes... here's my understanding. Pamela's still here, so Pamela's going to shake her head or nod her head as I get this right or get this wrong. The Metro Council can nominate whoever they want, and they can nominate Justin Jones to go right back in there. They can, if they suspend their rule, it requires a 4-week hold unless they suspend the rules of the Metro Council. And it only takes, 2 counselors? I think it's 2, maybe 3. All right, so it's not a lot. Like 2 or 3 counselors can tell them, no, we're not suspending the rules. So Justin Jones will either be back in the House of Representatives Monday. It could be as early as Monday, believe it or not, or as long as 4 weeks. But I think they have enough of the Metro Council that have agreed that they're going to vote for Justin Jones to go right back from whence he was just expelled. It's just a matter of timing. Would not be surprised at all if the city of Memphis did the same thing. But as I started the conversation, I mentioned that I've been waffling on this myself, right? I've been going back and forth, or as I like to say, I've been pancaking on this myself. Because I understand how you're elevating the profile of Jones and Pearson unnecessarily and in a way that they do not deserve. They have in some ways become martyrs to the cause. Now, what causes that, I'm not very, very sure. Because as Pamela Firm mentioned during my show, and while we were talking during the crossover, they've introduced no bills at all, really, but certainly no bills about gun control. They're screaming and yelling and gnashing their teeth about not being able to be heard about gun control. Well, tell me the bill that's not being heard. Show me the bill. Show me the piece of legislation that you desperately want passed in the state of Tennessee that the mean old nasty Republicans won't let you get passed in the state of Tennessee. I'll wait. I'm sitting right here. Justin Jones, our number is 615-737-9986. Justin Pearson, our telephone number is 615-737-9986. Gloria Johnson, that number the same for you, 615-737-9986. You tell me the legislation that Democrats want passed that they can't get to the floor of the House. There is none. It is all a load of garbage designed to play to the cameras that are on their side on this issue. They don't have legislation before the body. And even if they did, and even if magically they got it passed, it's not going to hold muster from a constitutional standpoint. The state of Tennessee has no right to ban types of weapons that have been guaranteed by the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the supreme law of the land. And you might pass something, and you might tie it up in the courts. Now, you can nip around the edges like many liberal states have done. Liberal states have managed to nip away from the Second Amendment in plenty of ways, to the point that in their inner cities, they've been able to justify the banning of weapons within those said cities. But I don't know of a law, correct me if I'm wrong, that's banned this nebulous, nonsensical, generic categorization of a gun in the ways that they're trying to do with the quote-unquote assault weapon ban. So I'm willing to hear what bill you want proposed that oh, look, there's Brian Ritchie trying to call me back. I need to tell Brian that I'm on the radio. Sorry, Brian. Brian was one of the 7 that flipped, too. I was trying to get him on the air, and I'll call him back in just a moment. Maybe we can make that happen live on the radio. There has been no legislation. And sad as it is, what we have watched happen over the last week, and I'm saddened for it because I don't know how you could have prevented it. And as I go back and forth, concerned that they're going to have their profiles raised in a way that they do not deserve, and they'll be right back in the legislature, by the way. I mean, we know that. Now, I've come to this place on the other piece. Last night, I was frustrated. Many of you reflect that frustration, that because Johnson escaped expulsion and the other 2 got expelled, that other places in the country are going to call us racist. I cannot count on my fingers and my toes and every one of your fingers and toes, every single person listening, times 10, how many times I've been called a racist. If you worry about being called a racist, then you're already losing to the name caller that's calling you a racist. I don't worry about it anymore because it's the last refuge of a dying liberal argument. It is an overplayed, well-worn page out of the old school liberal playbook. When you have no further argument to make, accuse the person you're arguing with of some form of racism because it worked back in the day and it works now. Now, I don't worry about that. It is what it is. I'm saddened that all 3 were not booted out on general principle. But I am concerned about the elevation of the profile of Jones and Pearson undeserved. At the same time, the political left, and this is where I've come to on everything that happened yesterday. The political left likes to talk about democracy when it suits them. Now, let's forget for just a moment, all of you word checkers on Super Text line, just suspend for a moment the interchange that they use in the words democracy and representative republic. I don't want to get into the fight today. There are 2 forms of democracy, direct democracy and indirect democracy. A representative republic is a form of an indirect democracy. So technically, we are a democracy. Although most of us recognize that we are not a direct democracy, which equates to mob rule. That is why so many people get their cockles up when the United States of America is called a democracy. But it is. It is an indirect form of democracy. It's a constitutional republic, also known as a representative republic. There are constitutional monarchies out there that are also forms of indirect democracy. So let's not argue that for a moment. The political left, the Democrats, the dunderheads that are the statists of this country, they love when it behooves them to talk about democracy dying in darkness and how this is a threat to democracy. It's one of their favorite go-to catchphrases, and it means absolutely nothing. But they're saying that the expulsion of these 2 individuals is a threat to Matt. This is a threat to democracy. I mean, if you can expel a duly elected member of the House of Representatives, it's a threat to democracy. This is not the threat to democracy. This is abiding by the rules of the House of Representatives that protects democracy. You see, whatever they say publicly, understand that they do precisely the opposite privately. They don't want to protect democracy. They want to break it down. They want to tear it down. They don't want to see safety in the streets of Chicago and San Francisco and New York and L.A. and right here in Nashville. They don't want to see safety in the streets. They need a means to an end, and that end is to, as Obama told us so many years ago, transform the United States of America into something greater and better, and that greater and better is socialism. For 22 years of my radio career, I pushed back on the New World Order narrative, and I don't do that anymore. Because while there is not necessarily direct coordination between what happened in Kentucky and what almost happened in Oklahoma and what happened here in Nashville in our state legislatures, while there's no coordination, there is certainly agreement that our democracies are not worth protecting. And I'll say this, regardless of whatever nitpicking I might give the House of Representatives, they stood up for the rule of law. They stood up for the rule of order. They stood up for democracy, while others in that body attempted to tear it down. Removing and expelling these two members was a protection of democracy, not a dismantling of it. You know what is a dismantling of the democracy? To bring a bullhorn to the floor of the House of Representatives and to encourage the crowd to sit in and occupy the House and not allow the House, the seat of the people's government, to function. And it's high time that we began fighting back and saying, hell no, no more. No more. They'll be back. They bring another bullhorn, they'll be expelled again, and the cycle will continue. It's 3:22. Matt Murphy and for Brian Wilson. It's The Drive on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Some disaster relief is granted to several Tennessee counties following some rough weather going through the area. Plus, we take a look at the aftermath of what the Tennessee House chose to do yesterday, and Vice President Kamala Harris coming to Tennessee. That and more, 3:30 right here, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Mac Morey.
You're welcome.
I'm 49 years of age. Sometimes I feel much, much older. Seconds ago was one of those times. I've got the super text line up, and I was trying to open up a new tab.
Oh.
And the bar on the top is gone.
Oh, no.
And so I'm like an old man trying to figure out a remote control.
Next thing you know, the screen's turned upside down. Writing's in another language.
I'm
font's this big.
I've got to make a telephone call on my rotary phone to my son who doesn't exist. Get over here. I need your help. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I think I figured it out, but now I can. So who put the tab window on the side? Turn off. Wait, no. Don't turn off anything.
You did that, didn't you?
Probably.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I probably did.
Yeah.
I got a new tab up, so I'm very proud of that. So
Nice job, buddy.
You know, it's the little victories.
Where's that? Get an ice cream. Get an ice cream later. Hey, come on, guys, get ice cream. I saw some. I posted this up on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Matt Murphy Show. And I swear to you, on a stack of Bibles, this is true. It was a story about some old 90-year-old person with dementia, and there was a photograph attached to the story. And the guy's sitting in a chair, and he's getting a kiss by like his daughter or something on the top of his head. And I swear I thought it was Joe Biden. I was like, oh, Joe Biden's getting a kiss. Oh, wait, hold on. That's not Joe Biden.
No,
that's some old guy with dementia.
Joe would be doing the kissing. If
that's right. The hair sniffing and all of that.
Thought it was Joe with Nurse. What was her name? Nurse
Cratchit? What? I don't know.
No, that nurse that he talked about that he had.
Oh, yeah, the nurse that he was like, she got handsy with him.
Yes, exactly.
Breathing in his ear or whatever.
Whispering in his ear.
Whisper in my ear. Just give me a little smooch. Just give me a little smooch over there. Do nursey things.
Gosh.
Do nursey things. The vice president's coming to town. Are we all going to collectively watch the traffic as it gets snarled to death on Good Friday?
Well, you can't because they turn all the cameras off.
Yeah, they turn it off.
Do they really?
Yeah. Well, they don't want anyone tracking and be able to see
where the traffic is.
The cavalcade or, motorcade.
So we're left to just looking at the map and watching as the green goes yellow and as the yellow goes red and the red goes purple and the purple goes black?
Pretty much, yeah. Well, I think they just, whenever they shut because they'll shut every artery down just to throw you off and not know. So I think it'll just show roads closed, roads closed, roads closed.
What, let me see. I'm looking now. What does that say? There's a multi-vehicle crash on I-40 westbound right now in Davidson County. Just a report on Jack Womack, SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
I mean, she should be arriving fairly soon, you'd imagine.
What is the, Maury, do you know the schedule?
I know the service that she's attending it's supposed to begin at 4:30.
What is the service? Is it at Fisk?
Fisk University, and it's for the 3 representatives.
So all right, so I'll leave Maury alone because I don't want him to bust up his news hat and get into the commentary section of the broadcast day. But so Jill Biden came. That's appropriate. Attended a candlelight vigil, a day, I want to say, maybe 2, after the tragedy of the Covenant School. To her credit, Jill Biden did not speak. She was offered to speak, the opportunity, and she turned it down. Good for her. The president joked and laughed about chocolate chip ice cream for several minutes on the day of the tragedy before bringing it up. Okay. So the vice president of the United States, all right, a couple of things. One, she comes on the aftermath of this tragedy and has made no word about the tragedy itself, except to say, on the heels of this shooting, they're kicking people out of the well of the body. She has now, as vice president of the United States, been to the city of Nashville more than she's been to the southern border. And hell, she's border czar. Let's make her Music City czar so she doesn't show up the next time she's invited. That seems appropriate. We'll talk about that momentarily. 3:31. Now it's time for news on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
32 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 59 degrees, a cloudy day in Nashville, expecting scattered showers tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow night. Easter Sunday, supposed to clear up a little bit. Weather and traffic in just a few minutes. We got some breaking news from News 2 right now. FEMA has granted some disaster relief to several Tennessee counties. That includes Rutherford, Cannon, and 8 other counties. This is all after strong storms rolled through all those areas. An official said the counties were officially declared a disaster by FEMA in the public assistance and individual assistance categories, and the damage from the storms was attributed to straight-line winds and, of course, those tornadoes that ruled through some of the volunteer state. The Tennessee Legislative Black Caucus condemns the expulsion of 2 Black House members as racist. 3 members were accused of breaking decorum by leading anti-gun protesters in a rally on the House floor on Monday. The white representative was retained. Smyrna Republican State Rep Mike Sparks tells WTN's Nashville Morning News he doesn't think the evidence was there for Gloria Johnson to be kicked out.
When they grabbed the bullhorn, meaning Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and took over the well, which is the front podium, and yelling to all those people in the gallery and outside with those bullhorns, no justice, no peace, that to me looked like they were inciting a riot.
Justin Jones could be reappointed when the Metro Nashville Council meets on Monday. And the NAACP held a press conference in Memphis today saying that they do stand with both Pearson and Jones and want to help them in their search for justice in what they believe was a wrongful termination. And you just heard WTN's Matt Murphy speaking about it, but Vice President Kamala Harris should be arriving within the coming hour or so. She's supposed to attend a service at Fisk University in Nashville, which is going to stand up for those 3 representatives, 2 of which were expelled from the Tennessee House of Representatives. That service set to begin in just under an hour, 4:30. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN 339. Brian Wilson off for Good Friday. Matt Murphy in for Brian. If you're not familiar with me, hello. I'm the midday guy from noon until 3. I directly precede Brian on normal days, Monday through Friday. I'm proud to do so. And I'm proud to sit in the seat on the drive this afternoon until 7 o'clock. Your calls and super text. I tell you what, we were unable to get a hold of Brian Ritchie. Representative Ritchie was one of the individuals that voted in favor of expelling the two Justins and against expelling Gloria Johnson. And I wanted to talk to as many of these folks as we possibly could, and I put out calls to numerous of these individuals. There's 7 of them. I've not called all of them. I called 4 of them. Jody Barrett will be on at 4 o'clock, and I'm not having them on to yell and scream at them or whatever. I'm having them on to genuinely try to figure out why the actions of the 2 that were expelled were enough to get expelled and why Gloria's weren't, her actions were not. I'm also genuinely interested in how they feel about the fact that they're racists. Because the woman that you voted to keep in the House, the first thing she did was walk to the rotunda and stand before the cameras, the assembled leftist media, MSNBC, #NeverCNN, garbage network full of garbage people, and all the rest, and said that she was saved because you were racists. That's what she said. That's what she said. So congrats for your troubles, for your careful consideration of the rules. You have now been labeled a racist by the person that you decided was good enough to stay in the House of Representatives. I hope you're happy. Hope it makes you feel good. 615-737-9986. Now, for a moment, I want to revert back to another it's a related subject. And I think it's a very important moment that we do this. It is Good Friday. For the last 2 weeks, we've been burying, or almost 2 weeks. I could figure it out. The math, 11 days now? Since the tragedy at Covenant School? Less than 2 weeks. In less than 2 weeks, the mainstream media, along with leftist Democrats, have managed to wrangle the subject away from the true nature of the tragedy that happened at Covenant School and turn it into a conversation about how racist we all are. This would probably infuriate me if it had not happened so often over the last, 10 years or so. It's an old, tired song out of an old, tired hymnal that I wish would be dispatched of permanently. What we ought to be talking about right now are the motivations behind the shooter at Covenant School and how those motivations might have some connective tissue between some of the other shootings that we've seen over the last several years in the United States of America. How potentially, much like ADD and ADHD, how potentially the overprescription of certain medications in the United States of America are creating a dynamic by which already otherwise mentally unstable people are being pushed over the edge to do evil acts like we saw at the Covenant School. I don't know whether this shooter was on any medications. I don't know if this shooter was on transgender type medication that would block certain hormones and promote others. I don't know the answer to that because we've not been given that information, because the FBI won't allow us to have that information. I'm certain that we could find some of this out through the, quote, manifesto. But while there's been shouting and yelling and all of that other nonsense at the State House demanding gun control legislation that can never be passed by the state of Tennessee, by the way, I've been attempting to sleuth and figure out potentially some of the motivating factors behind this shooting at the Covenant School and some other factors that I think you need to know about. So, out of a myriad of sources, I've been able to put kind of something together that I think you'd be interested in, and it involves what happened and how this tragedy could have been so much worse. It's been documented and reported that while we don't have particulars, and I don't believe the Metro Nashville Police Department or the FBI either have confirmed this, I now have confirmed it with enough trusted sources to tell you that the other target, the other potential target of the shooter was the Opry Mills Mall. We know that. But there was yet another target. But that target was from some 11 plus years ago. I have it on good authority that this person worked and walked through the beginning planning stages, the conversational planning stages of a mass shooting almost 12 years ago when she was a teenager with another person. And it's my understanding they were questioned on it, but they had not gotten far enough to merit any further charges or whatnot. In this case, thank God that there was enough training on the school grounds. Thank God that the police officers responded with the rapidness that they did, that other death was prevented. But some of what we believe to know now, and I've been trying to put this together for the better part of a week, is that the shooter went to the school. If you've seen the video, I want you to imagine in your mind's eye some of the videos that you've seen. And I understand that this is tragic and it's hard to consider, but I want you to walk through this because I think this is the important piece. Why they do what they do, how they do what they do, and how do we prevent it from ever happening again. So the individual leaves her car and goes to the glass doors and shoots out the glass doors. Had those glass doors had security shielding on them of any type that is rated to prevent entry after bullets go through them, it could have been stopped right there. But that did not happen. That is all hindsight. upon entry to the doorway, Mike Hill was in a room that's directly to the right inside of that doorway. Mike Hill never had a chance. He heard the shots. He came out to see what was going on, and he was immediately killed. The shooter then went up the stairway that's directly adjacent to the door where Mike Hill was killed in. She went up the stairs. The gunfire, I'm told by several different sources, the gunfire that happened on that ground floor level is what caused the fire alarm. I know that there was a rumor going around, and it was presented by the Daily Mail and other media outlets picked it up, that one of the students pulled the fire alarm. That is not true. I can tell you that it is not true that the fire alarm was pulled. Investigators are able to chart how a fire alarm went off, whether it went off because of smoke or it went off because somebody actually physically pulled it. And the fire alarm initially went off because of smoke. The assailant goes up to the second floor area. What are teachers trained to do when the fire alarm goes off? They're trained to evacuate their children. And we are told that when the shooter, the kids were being lined up to evacuate, and when the shooter got to the second floor doorway in the stairwell, the students were beginning to walk down the stairwell. And it's at that location that the 3 children were killed. And the one substitute teacher, Cynthia Peak. She was wrong place, wrong time. Well, all of them were, but wrong place, wrong time. She was substituting and walking from one class to another and heard the fire alarm and was going to the kids to help the kids get down the stairwell to get out of the school. And then after the teacher, thank God, through her training, knew to get the kids back in the school, back into the room and barricade the room. And she couldn't get to those 3 kids before they were killed. She barricades in the room. It's my understanding that at that point, the shooter focused on 2 classrooms at that end of the hall, and that she left those classrooms, and not really sure exactly how it happened, but that's when she encountered the headmaster of the school, and then she was killed. She was the final victim. That is what we believe to be the case. The rest of the classrooms were barricaded, and through use of training that I talk about quite often on my show because Brink is a sponsor of mine, and I so believe in what he does, they fortified in their classrooms. She was unable to breach any of the classrooms. And then once the police got there, she very quickly turned her attention to the police and started shooting out of the upstairs lobby area toward the police cars. They were under fire as they entered the class to nullify the threat. And I think we know the rest based on the video camera surveillance. I think it's important. I don't share that with you outside of knowing that many of you want to try to better understand why we lost 6 people less than 2 weeks ago. I would say that it confirms in my mind how important safety training is, how important that it is that teachers know to fortify in their classrooms, and how the heroes of that day remain the police officers that entered that facility and the teachers that had the training to understand what to do at the time that that shooter was there. If that teacher had not gotten her door room locked, every student and that teacher would have been slaughtered. But she did. And we thank God for that on this Good Friday. It's 3:50 on SuperTalk.
Vice President Kamala Harris supposed to be landing in Music City at any moment. She's attending a service at Fisk University right here in Music City that's supposed to show support to the 3 representatives in the Tennessee House, plus some violence in the Middle East, Tel Aviv, Israel, to be exact. We talk about that more and for Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Mr. Maury. Coming up at 4:05 or thereabouts, Representative Jody Barrett. As long as I get the number to Chris Weber, Representative Jody Barrett will be on with us, describing the incredible nature of what we all witnessed last evening in the state capitol and his decision to vote to expel 2, but not the 3rd. We will speak to Representative Barrett coming up at 4:05 this afternoon. Also, as you've heard multiple times, Kamala Harris is in town to celebrate, commiserate, be with the 2 representatives who were booted last evening from the Tennessee legislature.
The language I keep seeing is show support.
Show support for them.
Yep.
And still no, I mean, you have your finger on the pulse of the news as it happens, Mac Maury.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not being flip. I'm being serious. I mean, you're in there, you got a lot of resources going on.
Yeah.
Is there any resource that you are watching, any resource whatsoever, that indicates that she's meeting with anybody else?
No, sir.
No teachers?
Nope.
No school officials
Not
at
that I've
Covenant
seen.
School? Okay. No police officers? All right. She's here.
She's here, and actually I'm seeing on WSMV right now they have just opened up the steps to the plane, and she should be walking down any moment.
Well, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number. Here's the deal. You don't expel the 2 without expelling the 3rd one. That's just my take on it. They all broke the rules. Rules are the rules. But we'll get another take from Representative Jody Barrett coming up in just a moment. It is a Friday edition of The Drive. Coming up at 5:05 this afternoon, Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton will talk about the proceedings from yesterday, give his perspective on that, and maybe we'll lighten the load in the 6 o'clock hour. It's all coming up on The Drive. No Brian Wilson, Matt in for Brian on Good Friday.
It is 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now it is 59 degrees, and it's been a cloudy, wet day in Nashville. Expecting some more scattered showers here tonight and as well on Saturday and Saturday night. And Air Force One has just landed here in Nashville. Vice President Kamala Harris, the air stair has been deployed, and she's expected to walk down that plane any moment now. She is going to a service at Fisk University that's supposed to show support for the 3 members of the Tennessee House of Representatives that riled up anti-gun protesters this week. 2 of those were expelled last night, and Tennessee House Republican leadership is denying that race had anything to do with expelling those 2 black members. Channel 4's Ryan Breslin was on the House floor when only one white member was retained.
The Black Caucus says that they are confident that Metro Council will reappoint Justin Jones into his seat and that the Shelby County Commissioners will do the same for Justin Pearson. They just hope that they will be seated immediately. They also say that it's time to get back to the point of why they are there right now. They say that they want to see gun reforms passed.
The Metro Nashville Council votes on reappointment of Justin Jones on Monday, and the NCAACP held a press conference in Memphis today saying that they are standing for both Pearson and Jones and want to help them in a search for justice, and that they believe that it was a wrongful termination that took place yesterday in the Tennessee House of Representatives. Over into the Middle East, where there is violence. 1 person has been killed and 6 wounded in a vehicle attack in Tel Aviv. Here's Sherry Preston.
The Israeli Foreign Ministry calls it a terror attack, a car ramming into a group of people near a popular park in Tel Aviv. Israel uses the term terror attack to describe any assaults by Palestinians. The incident happening amid heightened tensions that began with clashes at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and escalated after 2 Israelis were shot in the West Bank and Israeli airstrikes hit Palestinian targets in both Lebanon and Gaza.
And one of the world's busiest ports has come to a halt today over labor issues. Here's Alex Stone in L.A.
The ports of L.A. and Long Beach are where many U.S. goods arrive, like new vehicles and much of what is manufactured in Asia for U.S. use. Now, several months into labor talks between the Dockworkers Union and maritime shippers, things have come to a halt. The Longshoremen's Union is reportedly withholding labor, shutting down the ports. The 2 ports handle about 40% of all U.S. imports from Asia. It's unclear when the ports will reopen.
And still just looking at WSMV, Vice President Kamala Harris has yet to walk down that air stair on Air Force 2. But again, traffic around the city is going to be very, very hectic as she travels to Fisk University. That is on 17th Avenue in North Nashville. So be watching out for wrecks, and we'll try to keep you updated as best we can with how the roads are looking. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is The Drive. No Brian Wilson today. Brian is off for Good Friday. I am here in his stead. I am Matt Murphy, normally heard from noon until 3 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Typically, this just kind of, I think we're all kind of figuring all of this out, right? This is the way that it works. When Brian's off, I kind of slide over into Brian's slot, and, a Pamela Furr or Johnny B or someone like that will fill in for me. And I appreciate Pamela Furr for doing said same earlier today. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you on this Good Friday. It's 4:06 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. So, in a moment, we will speak to one of the representatives who voted on expulsion or not in his case in just a moment from last evening's proceedings, and I'm excited to do that. I do note that the vice president has landed. Oh yeah, and she's probably doing some of that in the back of her SUV. And seconds ago, I mean, literally, once again, we started the show with me talking about how old I'm getting and forgetful. I did manage to figure out the tab situation over here on our computer, so everybody should be happy about that. Okay. I got it all taken care of. Good. I couldn't for a moment figure out how to split the tabs into two different screens. Oh, but I figured it out. Don't worry. I did not ask for help.
Okay.
Peepaw didn't need any help in this regard. I did need some help knowing where Fisk University was, because I wanted to alert the folks about that. And, I mean, it was like 60 seconds ago that Mac Morey told me where Fisk was, and I've already forgotten.
It's just north of downtown.
Okay. Just north of downtown. That doesn't really help me.
I think it's, 17th Avenue?
Is that right? 17th Avenue? Is that north of downtown?
Where is Mac Morey when you need him?
Is he back there?
17th Avenue.
I'm looking at it now. It's kind of
it's just west of downtown.
Yeah. It's near Metro General Hospital. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
All right. So if you are, if you're in downtown Nashville and you're looking to get out of downtown Nashville, I think you better start now. I'm just saying,
especially if you're heading east.
Yes,
Nashville.
Because the motorcade is going to block up a lot of the traffic and literally seconds ago, Kamala Harris got into her SUV and off she goes from the Nashville airport onto the campus of Fisk University to what did you say the wording was, Mac? What is she doing to support?
To show support.
To show support for the two expelled representatives, the two Justins, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson.
And Pearson just arrived at Fisk University.
Oh, well, good for him. I have no doubt. That Kamala Harris is currently listening to SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. I mean, why wouldn't she be? And so may I say, Madam Vice President, welcome to Nashville. Could you let us know when you can leave? Thank you. And oh, by the way, while you're here, and that was a joke, but here's a moment of seriousness, Ms. Vice President. How about taking a moment and maybe meeting with the police officers that saved who knows how many lives? How about spending a moment recognizing the good work that police, not just in our community, but around the United States of America, actually do? Instead of actively participating in raising money to let cretins, thugs, and ne'er-do-wells out of incarceration, as you have done over the years, particularly during the summer of 2020? How about honoring the police as they deserve it? How about, Madam Vice President, spending a moment in quiet reflection with the teachers, who I'm certain many of those teachers would be happy to meet with you, and quietly, without the cameras rolling, reflect on their actions that day and the fact that they saved children's lives? And how about, finally, meeting with the families? The families of the people that lost loved ones. That never crossed your mind? Instead, you want to meet the two expelled representatives because that was somehow an affront to democracy. Okay. You do you. We show you. You know what? Character is not spoken. Character is revealed. A man that I believe of good character is Representative Jody Barrett, and he joins us on The Drive as I sub in for Brian Wilson on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Jody, it feels like it's the second time I've talked to you this week. How are you, my friend?
Well, I'm doing okay.
I imagine, Jody, I know you and I like you, and I imagine it's been a kind of an interesting last 12 hours for you and the rest of the representative body. Just give us a sense of what yesterday was like from your perspective and what it's been like since.
Yesterday was awful. There was nothing fun or enjoyable about it, and it was a difficult time for, I think, every member of the House that had to endure that and be a part of it. I don't think anybody took great pleasure in being a part of that.
Talk to us about your votes for just a moment. I mean, you, if I'm not mistaken, you voted to expel Pearson and you voted to expel Jones. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Talk to us about why you decided that their actions rose to the level of expulsion.
Well, their actions are very clear cut and spelled out very concisely in the resolutions that were filed, and the facts that are set forth in that resolution were supported by the video evidence that was shown on the House floor and also supported through the testimony. Well, you can't call it testimony, but the debate that happened on the House floor. So it was very black and white in my mind on those two, as far as whether or not they clearly violated House rules and violated House rules that rose to the level of expulsion. And I'm sure you're going to get to my vote on.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, there's been some questioning, and I just wanted to hear from the individuals. I'm not going to judge it. I just want you to tie. And I said in the lead up to the interview that I like you, and I'm not having you on to yell at you about it. I'm sure that you've gotten a lot of yelling coming your way as a result of your vote. But I'm just curious what was different about Gloria, Gloria versus the other two.
Well, first of all, Gloria was the only representative to have legal counsel attend the hearing or the debate and speak on her behalf. And during her 20 minutes of opening, she had her counsel make statements, and in the process of their statements, they pointed out that there were factual inaccuracies in the resolution pertaining to her and the allegations contained in the resolution that did not line up with the video evidence and what we saw that happened last Thursday. And, as an attorney, that automatically created concern for me that if we were proceeding on a resolution that was inaccurate, it would be like proceeding on an indictment that is inaccurate, which happens to be in the news right now as well.
Well, I mean, as an attorney, you know that the House of Representatives is not a court of law.
I do know that, but the whole process of the whole point of having the hearings that we had was to provide due process to the people that were being considered for expulsion and giving them the ability to answer and respond, in which one of them at least did try to answer to the allegations that were raised against her. And during the course of the debate, I was hoping and waiting to see that if we were going to be able to overcome the deficiencies in the resolution and be able to establish through the debate, clearly and concisely the rules that Representative Johnson broke and the severity of those rules. And unfortunately, in my opinion, I just don't think we got there. And look, I told you last week or earlier this week that I fully expected all three to be expelled. I walked into the chamber yesterday fully expecting to vote in favor of expulsion. The members of my caucus and leadership expected me to vote that way as well. And I'm probably going to have to do a lot of explaining to my leadership to explain why I changed my mind. And that's one of the worst things I think that you can do is tell somebody that you're going to do one thing and then not do that. But just in the moment and based on the evidence and what was presented to us based on the debate and discussion, I just did not feel like it was the right thing to do. It would have been much easier for me to just vote yes and go along with everybody else, but at the end of the day, I just didn't feel like it was the right thing to do on Representative Johnson.
Representative Jody Barrett is with us from Dixon. We had him on my show earlier in the week talking about this very same subject prior to the vote, and now he's back on talking about his individual votes and the vote of the body itself. Explain to me what rules Jones and Pearson broke.
So all three of them went to the well while we were in the middle of session. We were in the middle of our regular calendar, and we had just completed the vote on one bill, and we were waiting for the clerk to call the next bill, which would bring the next presenter up to the well. And all three of them went to the well, and then Jones and Pearson began speaking from the well and yelling up into the crowd in the gallery. Almost immediately, the speaker gavelled them down and called them out of order, but they refused to be quiet and they refused to leave the well. And then he called us into recess. And what's not been said yet is that immediately once he gavelled us into recess, he immediately called for leadership of both parties to come up to his dais to talk about what to do with these three individuals and how we were going to restore order and get back to our business. And that's what caused the 50-minute delay in our session, was part of the bipartisan discussion between leadership of trying to figure out the best way to proceed on that day.
Okay, so hold on. So the question was, what rules did they break? So you're saying going to the well out of order was a violation of the rules, and that's the primary reason that Jones and Pearson were expelled.
Correct. Just like in a courtroom, you're not allowed to speak unless the judge recognizes you. The speaker is that person that presides over the House floor.
So Jody, did Gloria break that rule too?
Gloria did not begin the immediate outburst.
No. Let me ask the question again, and I don't mean to be rough with you here.
Sure.
Did Gloria Johnson break the rule, as did Jones and Pearson, and go into the well out of order? Was she in the well when they were declared out of order?
She went to the well, yes.
So she broke the rule?
Yes. Then why did you not vote for her? Then why did you not vote for her to be expelled? Again, I had concerns about the resolution that we were voting on. In essence, we were voting on whether we were in favor of or not in favor of a resolution. And at the end of the day, the resolution had factual inaccuracies in it that I don't think were completely accurate and applicable.
What are those?
Saying that Representative Johnson screamed from the well, that she used the bullhorn, that she also banged on the well and led the crowd in chants and cheers. Not all of that was done by Representative Johnson. The video evidence did not show that.
Okay, but
where it.
Okay, I mean, no. So it's a matter of severity. It's a matter of the severity of the breaking of the rule as opposed to the breaking of the rule in and of itself.
Correct. In my mind.
Okay, so, but despite the fact that you acknowledge she broke the rule, you decided that what she did not rise to a level of expulsion.
That's where I fell on it.
Okay. I mean, look, like I say, I'm not here to, I'm here to understand and here to get your side of it. How does it make you feel, Jody, that immediately after you voted not to expel Gloria Johnson, that Gloria Johnson went to the rotunda and reported to the assembled news media that the reason that you did not vote to expel her was because you're a racist?
Well, look, it's a preposterous claim. It's baseless and highly offensive. And honestly, I intend on Monday to get with House Ethics Counsel to explore whether or not she committed an ethics violation by impugning my reputation in that way. And if House Ethics Counsel agrees that she did violate our ethical rules, then I intend to file a complaint against her.
Well, you know what she did. I'm not here telling you new news. I think it's shameful. I think it's ridiculous. I don't know you that long, but everything that I've known of you, you seem like a stand-up guy that just wants to represent your district the best possible way that you can. You're going to, as my grandpa used to say, take it in the short hairs over this vote. You know that. For those in your district that are a little frustrated or concerned, what's the final message from Representative Barrett to them?
Well, the final message is I told everybody whenever I ran for this office that I would always try to do the right thing, regardless of what the ramifications of that were. And I still feel like I did the right thing. Even though it would have been a lot easier just to go along, I just did not feel like it was appropriate for me to convict with a yes vote on expulsion based on the evidence that we had presented to us.
Just as a side note, before I let you go, you mentioned the attorneys that Gloria had with her. She had two of them, right?
Correct.
Do you know either of those attorneys?
One is former representative. I think they may be both former representatives, John Mark Wendell and Mike Stewart, I believe.
Okay. I didn't know them, so I'm new around. I just don't know what their background is. So I didn't know if you were familiar with them. Well, Jody, we'll the chip shall fall where they may. Let us know how your exploration on a violation of the ethics goes. And obviously, it's been a heck of a week. Thankfully, it is now Good Friday, and I wish you a good weekend. I wish you a happy Easter, and hopefully, we'll be able to talk to you again very soon.
Matt, I appreciate the time.
Take care. There's Jody Barrett. All right, let's get some thoughts on that. 422 SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Vice President Kamala Harris making her way to Fisk University after just landing at BNA on Air Force Two, and we just heard from Representative Jody Barrett on WTN.
I'm sorry. You
4:30 Super Talk.
I don't mean to laugh while you're doing the tease. You sound so disappointed that she's here. Did he not?
She just landed.
Vice President.
Making her. I'm so
I'll step
sorry.
it up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should be more happy.
I think it's
yeah.
actually very appropriate. I'm so sorry. All of you stuck in traffic. I don't know what to tell you.
I just like the fact that he calls her Kamala.
Yeah, buddy boy. That's racist. You know that, right?
Kamala?
Even more racist. Keep going.
Kamala was that wrestler. Remember that big wrestler?
Oh yeah, Kamala.
Back in the 80s.
Kamala.
Yeah.
I think it's Kamala. Kamala, as I believe. Oh look, Richie Bryan's calling me back. Call him real quick. Call him real quick from over there. He's calling me back. See if he can do 5:30 or 6 o'clock sometime later on, because we've got a lot of telephones to get to. Your reaction to our conversation with Representative Jody Barrett. Look, questions asked, questions answered. I could have explored a little more as to, what I heard. Jody Barrett said, everybody broke the rule. He knows that. He admitted that. But she had attorneys. I don't really like that he brought that up at the beginning of the conversation, but whatever. I'm not going to yell at him for that. But she brought attorneys. They didn't bring attorneys. So what? Who cares? You know what that sounds like? An attorney talking. She brought attorneys. They didn't bring attorneys. She did not do certain things that were in the thing. She didn't shout. She didn't use the bullhorn. Did she break the rule? She should have been expelled with the other two. And I know all of them will be back. It doesn't matter. It is the principle of the thing. We better start standing on the rule of law and the principle of the rule of law. Otherwise, the left is going to nip away at our democratic process to the point that they're going to destroy it. I promise you that. Now, I'm not going to cut it off with Jody. I like the guy. I just think it's a freshman mistake. An absolute freshman mistake. That's my take on it. She broke the rules. She should have been out with the other two. What's your say? Kathy's in Nashville with a thought on all of this. Kathy, what do you say about it?
I felt like they either all go or they all stay. The special treatment should not have been given to one.
I agree with you there. And the one that seemed to get the special treatment while she spoke the least in the well, she's the most senior member. These other two are newbies. She knew better than to be there with them. Yeah. And I think they knew better too, but she certainly knew better. And by being the senior member, she was there to show her support. I'm with you, Kathy. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, take care. There's Kathy's thought. Let's get one more in here before we go to the news with Mac Morey. Aaron is next in Mount Juliet. Aaron, what's your response?
I feel like he should have, he shouldn't have taken that stance. They should have all three stayed out. And when he did, that just kind of, opened the door for Kamala and friends to come to town and start a fundraiser. Speaking of Kamala, what is she, the new Al Sharpton or something? I mean, she doesn't want to show up here until she, has some kind of agenda that supports her narrative. But I wanted to ask you about Rex Engelbright when this is about the shooting. I noticed when he got there to the school that the lady was standing there and she had a cell phone in her hand with some instructions for him. Was she standing in front of the windows of the school? And if so, knowing there's an active shooter inside, why didn't the officer at least tell her to take cover?
No, it's a great question. It's a fair question, and I'm going to answer it on the other side. Aaron, keep listening. I can't do it now because we've got to go to the news, but I'm writing it down to make sure I remember to answer the question on the other side of it. News time now on the drive on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
.431, I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 60 degrees, cloudy, and it's going to be a cloudy, rainy weekend as well. Rain expected tonight and scattered showers throughout the weekend. Weather and traffic in just a few minutes. And if you're expecting, why is it so trafficky right now? That's because Vice President Kamala Harris is in Nashville. She's on her way to Fisk University over in North Nashville for a service to show support for the 3 Tennessee representatives that went through expulsion votes yesterday. The GOP-controlled chamber ousting 2 for their roles of breaking decorum with a bullhorn to lead protesters in a gun control rally. The two young black former lawmakers, Justin Pearson and Justin Jones, and not choosing to expel the white lawmaker, Gloria Johnston. 5 Republicans in the House flipped their vote for Johnson and not the other two. One of them, Representative Jody Barrett, joined the drive on WTN today and gave his reason for his flipping.
Well, first of all, Gloria was the only representative to have legal counsel attend the hearing or the debate and speak on her behalf. And during her 20 minutes of opening, she had her counsel make statements, and in the process of their statements, they pointed out that there were factual inaccuracies in the resolution pertaining to her and the allegations contained in the resolution that did not line up with the video evidence and what we saw that happened last Thursday.
Barrett said that he walked in expecting to vote all 3 representatives out and told his constituents that as well, and that now he's going to have some explaining to do. The factual inaccuracies in the resolution that he was referring to were Johnson banging on the well and leading the crowd in chants and cheers. He admitted to her also breaking House rules, but not to the severity that Jones and Pearson did. And he believes that Johnson may have broken an ethics rule by claiming racism to be the reason that she was not expelled and the other 2 black members were. He plans to file a complaint. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
438 SuperTalk 99.7 WT and the Matt Murphy show. No. The Drive with Brian Wilson.
Nice
not the Matt
save,
Murphy show.
yeah.
Thank you. Not the Matt Murphy show. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson. Matt Murphy show happens from noon until 3, and Pamela Furr was in for me today. Vice President Kamala Harris is in town today. See how I did that, Maury? Kamala just rolls off the tongue. Kamala. Just rolls right off the tongue there.
Kamala.
You know what does not roll right off the tongue? Traffic is great right now if you're trying to get home to spend your Easter weekend with your family and friends, because it's not great right now. So, Weber, were you telling me, if I understood you correctly, because I'm looking at the TDOT Smartway map, and I understand the cameras go off, but you're saying that do they stop the map alerts too, you think?
I think that I'm trying to remember the last time we had one of these, and it seems like they showed that their roads were closed, but I could be wrong about that. It may have just been obvious that, okay, you look and you see there's zero traffic on Briley Parkway, or on 40 between downtown and the airport, and that may have just been the clue that, okay, the road's obviously closed if there's no cars.
I have a feeling that some of this happens, relatively speaking, so quickly that the map itself can't catch up in terms of the color coding and all
that. Could
that.
be too, yeah.
You know, because I mean, I understand that. I know that the traffic doesn't go away very quickly and the backups don't go away very quickly, but some of the reaction on the maps maybe. But anyway, if you're trying to get out of town and it's particularly quagged up on a Friday afternoon, that is why, because Kamala Harris is at Fisk. No word on how long she will be at Fisk. I certainly hope that she's not there until 7 o'clock tonight, because I have to get home. I have to drive right by the airport to do it. And I expect smooth sailing. Thank you. Vice President, please take it under advisement. All right, let me answer a question real quick asked by a previous caller regarding the woman standing outside. I've been I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it. I hesitate only because I don't want to say things that I have not verified to be true. But the woman standing outside of the Covenant School in the Rex Engelbert video, you see him pull up. Those cameras, those body cameras are set to when they exit their vehicle, they go back like 30 seconds, which is why you always see them come on. When they initiate, somehow they're set up, and smarter people, more electronically in tune with this type of technology, can explain it better. I won't try to, but just to say that they're set to when they come on, they go back 30 seconds. Very similar to, when commercial vehicles like 18-wheelers, they're traveling down the road, and we've seen the videos. I have gone down a rabbit hole on YouTube on some of these videos, these traffic accident videos that you see from these commercial truckers, and invariably you see when they hit their button, like it goes back, like it's always filming or it's always on, but it doesn't record until you hit the button, and it can go back like 30 seconds from when you hit the button. Does that make sense? So it can slide back a little bit in time to catch what happened just before the moment that you hit the button. Same thing with the body cam videos. They hit the button, and it slides back a set amount of time, whether it's 15 seconds or 30 seconds. So when the officer gets out of the car is probably when he hits the body cam, but you see him pulling up in his vehicle because it slides back to 30 seconds. All that to say, he pulls up, gets out of his vehicle. There's a woman there. Direct answer to the question from the previous caller is what I can only assume, and I don't have any direct information, is that they were on the other side of the facility, on the other side of the campus, away from the shooting. So obviously, had the officer believed that anybody was in danger, I am certain that he would have told her to get to a safe place and out of danger. I believe that the gunfire was happening on the other side of the building, because those officers did not seem, any of them, when he was saying, I need three, none of them seemed to believe that they were in direct harm's way. Secondarily, the woman with her phone, and I think she's the one, it might have been a gentleman, but it was either her or another guy that gave him the key. She's out there giving information, good information. All of our kids are accounted for. We're missing 2. We don't know where they are, et cetera, et cetera. I've been told that she had kids in there. I don't have any kids, and I can't say that without choking up. These teachers have gotten a lot of attention. I don't know that they're getting the attention. I don't know how to give them the attention they deserve. And I don't know that they want it because 3 kids and 3 adults died, but it could have been so much worse. And that's what I've been told by trusted sources, that the person that you see in that video had children inside of that building. And she still had the clear-headedness to offer the information that she offered, to talk to the police officer in a way that gave him valuable information in a split second so that he could go in there armed with that information and try to neutralize the threat, which he did. But easy answer to your question is, I am certain that if the officer believed that the woman was in harm's way, they would have moved her out of harm's way. All right, that said, continued reaction to our conversation with Jody Barrett. By the way, programming note, Brian Ritchie will be on our show at 5:35 after we speak with Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton. Brian Ritchie is one of the 7 individuals that voted in favor of expulsion for the 2, but not for Gloria Johnson. We will find out what his reasoning is at 5:35 this afternoon. In the meantime, your reaction to Mr. Barrett. Let's start with Jeff in Tullahoma. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yes, sir. Is this Matt?
Yes, sir. This is Matt Murphy. Hope you're well.
Okay, I have permission to step up to your well, right? And I know I'd be cutting off thousands of other callers.
You are not out of order, sir.
Okay, good deal. No, I just feel like that, it's all a sham. I think that this lady just walking up there alone, if they got a rule that you're not supposed to walk up there unannounced, that they should be charged as guilty too, because of the fact that, rules should be rules, and the fact that, if somebody right now was to walk up there when they're in session unannounced and starts reading their agenda while other people are announced and they're not getting to read theirs, wouldn't that be just as worse? I think so. See my point?
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Yeah. And I think it was because of the lawyers. I think that's the reason that they went lenient on this woman. And I didn't even know about that until today.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? And I'm trying to give Jody the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to be nice because I've met him a couple of times, and I like him, and I think he could be a good, solid representative. I just think this is a freshman mistake, and frankly, I wanted to go after him on that point because I don't give a rip if there were lawyers there or not. What does that have to do with anything?
Exactly. Because there's only one high judge, and we know who he is.
Well, and this isn't a court of law, and even if it was a court of law, I should have the ability to represent myself should I choose to represent myself, and a lawyer's presence doesn't mean anything. And I happen to know that Jody is a lawyer, and that's why it kind of set me off a little bit.
Exactly.
Like the good old boys club.
I know that everybody has their own thoughts, and that's why you guys listen real well, and you do value everybody's thoughts. But at the same time, I think that, yes, I think she should have been expelled just as well, because it was a threesome that they're Tennessee 3, so it should be.
Well, I'm not going to call them the Tennessee 3 because I think that makes it sound too good, and I don't like it. I would prefer to call them the Bullhorn Trio or the Bullhorn Brigade. I think that's pretty good. Bullhorn Mafia, maybe, but Tennessee 3. No, I'm not going there. It is being described much better on the super text line. I mangled it. Here's the description of the body cam as well as the commercial truck cams. It's a 30-second loop over right until you activate it. Right? Makes sense. So it records for 30 seconds and then starts over. And records for 30 seconds and starts over. And records for 30 seconds and starts over. And then when you activate it, you've already got 30 seconds in the bag, and then it loops back around. Or it doesn't loop back around. It records everything. That makes a lot of sense. 447, getting your thoughts on Jody Barrett's explanation. In the meantime, there are other subject matters on the table on this First Amendment Freestyle Friday. The Biden administration taking a victory lap on Afghanistan. I'm going to get to that, and we're going to have an entire discussion about transgenderism in America today a little bit later on, and maybe lighten the mood, maybe do a Friday Mac Attack in the 6 o'clock hour. Larry's in Clarksville. Larry, good afternoon.
Hey, Matt, good afternoon. First of all, I think we need to move forward in an effort to move forward so we can continue to move forward. My question for the Mr. Attorney Jody, and I think Jody's a good guy, but if you are the getaway driver in a bank robbery, and bear with me, but if you are a getaway driver in a bank robbery, and someone is assaulted with the gun in many, many states, you are just as culpable as the guys in the bank pulling the trigger. She broke the law. I don't care how many attorneys she had present. That is a BS answer. She should be out just like they should. And even if they get put right back in, none of them should have any committee assignments. They should be ignored until there is a new election, and then we'll go from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to unpack on Barrett's explanation. The one thing that I wish, and, hindsight 2020, of course, but the one thing that I perhaps should have, and maybe next time he's on, if it comes up, we'll ask him. Because Jody said that she didn't, there were certain things in the resolution that, she didn't speak into the bullhorn, that she didn't talk as loud, she didn't bang quite as loud on the. So is what he's saying, if Pearson and Jones were a little quieter, then they would have gotten off too?
Or maybe if they'd have brought attorneys, it would have scared Jody, and all of them would have gotten off.
I mean, right?
And listen, you know me, I don't have much love for attorneys, except for Jay. I love Jay. But all the other attorneys can, take a flying leap.
I can't. Yeah,
that excuse was bull crap, Matt.
Well, you know bull crap, Larry. You're my bull crap. You're my bull crap aficionado. You're my expert over there.
Well, and I know goat crap.
Yeah,
too.
I was about to say probably you're more of a goat crap expert than a bull crap expert.
I love you, brother. I love you.
See you. Take care, man. I appreciate you. Just getting some reaction to the excuse. I won't call it excuse making. I'm telling you, I'm trying to be nice. I don't know why. I'm trying to be nice, but it just doesn't sit well. Dave is in Bellevue with a thought on all of this. Dave, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, good, Matt. So my thought was, listening to how he explained it, part of it, I think, was the fact that Gloria actually mounted a defense. Whether it had to do with lawyers or not, she actually mounted a logical defense where the other two did not present any kind of, actual defense against their actions.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm at a deficit because I admit I have not seen Gloria's testimony. I've not seen that 20 minutes because I was on the air at that time. I did listen to a little bit of Justin Pearson's. I was able to join some of that in progress, JIP as we call it in the business, during the show. And Pearson was the one that offered, in my feeling on it, the most robust apology. Now, I know an apology and a defense are two different things, but, maybe so. It seemed that Jody was moved by the fact that she didn't talk on the bullhorn. She didn't really talk a lot standing in the well. My counter to that is she broke the rule. And, I think that merits expulsion too. So thanks, Dave, for the thought. It's 4:52. We will have Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton on this matter coming up in just a couple of minutes, plus some additional conversation involving the Covenant School shooting itself. It's all on the drive on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
5 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 61 degrees and cloudy. Vice President Kamala Harris is in Nashville right now, so that means traffic will be a lot more high and a lot more something to monitor right now. She's making her way to Fisk University for a service to show support for two now expelled legislators, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, and still active Representative Gloria Johnson, the three legislators that went to the well during session and riled up protesters with a bullhorn. The Republican-dominated House had 7 representatives change their mind for Johnson, but not for Pearson and Jones. One of those was Jody Barrett, who joined the drive on WTN and defended his decision.
We were in the middle of our regular calendar, and we had just completed the vote on one bill, and we were waiting for the clerk to call the next bill, which would bring the next presenter up to the well. And all three of them went to the well, and then Jones and Pearson began speaking from the well and yelling up into the crowd in the gallery. Almost immediately, the speaker gavelled them down and called them out of order, but they refused to be quiet and they refused to leave the well.
He mentioned that Johnson didn't yell or bang at the well and also brought 2 attorneys with her during her 20-minute defense period. And 23 members of the 40-seat Metro Council have now confirmed to NBC News or on social media that they plan to vote to reinstate former Representative Justin Jones to the legislature on Monday. And staying in Tennessee, disaster relief has been granted to Tennessee from the Federal Emergency Management Agency to 10 Tennessee counties, including Rutherford and Cannon. This is in wake of the severe storms and tornadoes that came through the volunteer state. Other counties designated to receive FEMA assistance are Hardman, Hardin, Haywood, Lewis, Macon, McNairy, Tipton, and Wayne counties. And some money news.
The stock markets were closed in observance of Good Friday, but the Labor Department still issued its monthly jobs report. And despite the Federal Reserve raising interest rates in an attempt to cool the economy and the job market, it shows employers kept hiring. They added 236,000 jobs in March. The unemployment rate fell to 3.5%. Average hourly wages are up 4.2% from 12 months earlier. New technology, more customer representatives, and more audits of high-wealth taxpayers. That's what the IRS says are the tax agency goals, as it outlined plans on how to use an $80 billion budget windfall for improved operations. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says it will investigate a March 15th Tesla car crash in North Carolina when a driver failed to stop for a 17-year-old student who had just gotten out of a school bus that had activated all its warning devices.
That is Chuck Sievertson and the latest news. Traffic and weather are upcoming. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is not The Drive. I am officially renaming the show today. Because Brian's not here, he cannot object. I'm renaming the show to The Crawl with Brian Wilson.
I was going to say The Park.
Oh, we could do The Park, but I was thinking maybe even the Kamala Crawl.
That's not bad. I like that.
Thanks to the
Alliteration,
presence, the Vice President of the United States. She is in attendance at a ceremony of some fashion at Fisk University, showing some form of solidarity with the former representatives that have been removed from their post due to the fact that they cannot follow the rules. So if you're out and about on the roadways right now, by the way, Matt Murphy here, Brian not here. He's off for Good Friday. He'll be back Monday. I'm normally heard from noon until 3 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, and I thank you for listening to me now. Hope you're doing well. If you're in traffic, probably not so good. The vice president landed about an hour ago. Her motorcade made way, I believe it was on 440, just based on where some of the traffic patterns seem to have gone and where some of the closures were. And she's now, we are told, at Fisk University or very close. But, after the ceremonies end, you'll have another round of all of this coming up later on in the evening. Yeah, she's shaking hands at Fisk as we speak. I'm looking at some live video right now as she's she's walking down the receiving line with the assembled representatives. Everybody wants to get a photo op with the Vice President of the United States. Seriously, no suggestion that she's meeting with family members from Covenant, no suggestion that she's meeting with teachers, and no word on her meeting with the lawmen, specifically the two that saved lives less than 2 weeks ago at the Covenant School. All right, yesterday was an incredible day in the state of Tennessee's history. It was an incredible day in the Speaker's chamber, as well as Speaker Cameron Sexton oversaw the proceedings, as he does every time the House is in session. And to speak with us about all of this matter, we welcome back to the program Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton, joining us on the WTN hotline. Cameron, a good Friday to you.
Good Friday to you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. In your experience in the body or as Speaker, have you experienced a more, I don't want to call it chaotic, but I will, a more chaotic week?
Only when it's the last week of session and we are having to get through the final bills to get home, but that's usually about how busy it usually is. So
let's start with some of the positives, and then we'll move on to some of the nuts and bolts of what went down yesterday. By the way, I want to start the interview by saying, and I don't want this to seem like I'm about to softball you here, Cameron, but I want to applaud your ability to keep your calm and your ability to keep your sense about you with regard to the rules of the House of Representatives when it seemed that so many don't clearly understand them. And I'm not just talking about the event that took place that led to yesterday, but yesterday itself. So congratulations for that.
Well, thank you. Some people, even though they know the rules, they don't want to live by the rules, and so they'll act like they don't know the rules as well, right?
But I want to start with the good. A bipartisan school safety bill was passed yesterday. Is that correct?
It was. It was a bipartisan to new Homeland Security officers in the state of Tennessee that will help with the SROs that's in the schools that the governor's proposed in every public school. It will help coordinate with the law enforcement offices as well as private schools and provide another resource to help us protect our families and kids.
Well, no, that's something good that came out of yesterday's action. I think a lot of good came out of yesterday's action, and obviously I wanted to start there because I think that fact is lost in the national, if not international, story over the expulsion of the two members and the lack of expulsion of a third. Just talk to us about why you believe this was so important with regard to the fact that they broke the rules, why it was so important that you got these resolutions on the floor of the House of Representatives and allowed the members an opportunity to vote on expulsion.
Well, it's important because we in the House run on House rules, and so you have to live within those means. And so there was something that happened on the House floor that's never happened in our state's history. 3 members commandeered the well to come up out of order, shut down the proceeding for about 45 minutes, and decided that they were more important than the institution. And so it was important for us to do that. And so I applaud our members who stood with us. and was able to have due process for those members and allow them to have an opportunity to defend themselves.
What do you make of the fact that we had 2 expulsions and one was not expelled by one singular vote? I mean, do you take a position here? I mean, I understand your role as Speaker of the House is to conduct the proceedings and to allow individual members to speak while in order of the rules, and then ultimately you're a voting member as well. But what do you make of the fact that 2 out of the 3, all 3 seem to have violated the rules, but only 2 were expelled as a result?
No, they all 3 violated the rules, and that's why to the same disregard and to the same disruption of behavior to lead a protest on the House floor to those in the balcony. That's what they did. Even the Tennessean in my press conference afterward admitted that they had a protest on the House floor. Although they called it peaceful, whatever, they admitted there was a protest. What it tells you is there were members who, like me, who voted for all 3 of them to be expelled. On Gloria Johnson, it's interesting if you go back and watch. She actually said, I didn't do what these 2 did. They said, I did not use the bullhorn that they used on the House floor. I did not pound the podium. I did not sit on the podium. I did not yell and scream. And so she distanced herself. She goes, I'm here to talk about me. This is about me, not about them. And she tried to distance herself from them, only to go out later and try to say the only reason that she was not expelled is because the color of her skin, which is not true at all. It's her interpretation, but there was members who she persuaded, unfortunately in my opinion, that she was not as active a participant as the other 2. But if you're up there and you're doing it and you're supporting them, to me, you're just as guilty as those that were using the bullhorn.
It's my understanding, Mr. Speaker, and I understand that there are certain aspects of your role as Speaker of the House that you can talk about publicly and certain things that behind closed doors you do that aren't necessarily for public view. But it's my understanding that you received a letter from the freshman members of the Republican caucus indicating their desire to vote and expel all 3. Is that correct?
There was a letter from some of the freshmen. Yes, it wasn't all the freshman Republican members, but yes, there was a letter that they had signed the Friday after the event on Thursday that requested that all 3 be expelled.
And some of those freshmen, including Representative Jody Barrett that we spoke to about an hour ago on the drive, Jody was a signature on that letter, was he not?
He was, as well as some other members, yes.
What do you think? Have you had an opportunity to speak to these members and discover what exactly changed their minds or their way of thinking with regard to their vote?
No, I have not. I've been doing a lot of media requests.
I bet.
I have not talked to those members. But let me tell you, here's one thing, Matt, that happened on the House floor that people need to go back and watch. Dr. Kumar was questioning Representative Jones. And Dr. Kumar was telling a story about how he's an immigrant, a legal immigrant, how he built his life from nothing to a physician. And that Justin Jones came up to him in the committee and actually called him a brown face. And Dr. Kumar is Indian. So Dr. Kumar was relaying that story on the floor. When it came time for Representative Jones to speak, what he told him, and this is all on video, and it's in the newspaper today, he said, I called you a brown-faced white supremacist.
Huh. Well,
And so, you know, Representative Jones wants to sit there and act like he's the victim. And then you watch how he acts. He is the instigator. And for him to make that comment to Dr. Kumar, who built his life 51 years in our country legally to become what he is, and simply call him something because of the color of the skin and the political party that he's part of, goes against everything that Representative Jones was trying to say on the House floor that he believed in.
Gloria Johnson, I want to ask you this, and then I want to move on to what happens next. Gloria Johnson, immediately after she survived expulsion by one vote, went to the rotunda, spoke to members of the media, and accused 7 of the members that voted in favor of expulsion for her colleagues but did not vote to expel her, accused them of being racist, saying that racism was the reason why she survived and the other two members did not. Is there something that those members can do to attempt to punish in some fashion an accusation of racism by a sitting member of the House of Representatives? It seems to me at least to be an ethical violation.
It very well could be. Like the Representative Jones's comment to Dr. Kumar on the floor is a workplace harassment now. That's where that is. Representative Johnson making those comments could be an ethical violation as well. And so we're looking through those details as well right now to see if she did violate any ethics policy in the General Assembly.
Cameron, I've gotten to know you over the 16 months I've been in Nashville, and I have such respect for not only you as a representative, but also as the Speaker of the House. Do you allow any of this clatter exterior to the House of Representatives and the rule of order to get to you? Because I will say there's a lot of liberal claptrap going on, but there's a lot of conservatives that are applauding what you're doing by standing up to the rule of law. And finally, even in the face of being called every name under the sun, racist, and all of these other things, standing up for what is right and the rule of law in the state of Tennessee. I mean, do you allow some of that clutter to get to you?
I try for it not to. And so, I don't worry about what they say. I understand how the left tries to bully you and intimidate you. They try to back you in the corner. They don't want to be held accountable. And so, it is what it is. And so, it does get tough when people they pass out your cell phone and they start emailing you and they start trying to publish where you live in Crossville, and they have death threats on you. People call in death threats. That's what they do. And so you just have to decide that what you did is right, and that's more important than backing off from those on the left who are just, some of them are just evil people. Not all, but some.
For me, and I try to act as a voice for the people in Middle Tennessee. And that's what our job is. And for me, it was difficult where I settled on this because I was fearful that what ultimately would occur out of this was that we would elevate voices that did not deserve elevation. And at the end of all of this, we end up right back where we started, because the belief is that these two will get reelected to the body during special session and maybe even reappointed. I want to ask you about that, but also, what authority do you have, or do you have any authority should the Metro Council, for example, in the city of Nashville, choose Monday to appoint Justin Jones to replace the expelled Justin Jones? Will he then be seated in the House?
We're working through those issues. We'll see if Metro actually goes through with it. That's what they're saying. So we'll see if they appoint. We're working through what the Constitution says about it. We're working through what the law says about it. We're looking through anything that we can find about a member being expelled and whether or not they're appointed or run for office or the whole circumstances surrounding it. And so we'll take a hard look at it. We'll see if they do that. They may very well, and then we'll act accordingly. But we're looking through it, and we'll see what happens come next week.
And if the voters choose to select these two to come back to the body after a special election, do you look at that as a completely, does that come in with somewhat of a blank slate in terms of their representation at that point?
Well, the Constitution says you cannot expel a member for the same offense twice. So the things that happen on March 30th, you can't review again. So they come back in, but, if they do come back in and they are elected and that they can be elected, whether it's in a special election or if they have to wait until the 114th General Assembly, if they do get elected to come back, then they can represent. The Constitution is clear. It doesn't prohibit you from serving if you've been expelled. And I would hope that they would follow the rules and that they would continue to do how we're supposed to operate. We operate under rules of order, which is all government entities do. If they served in Congress, if they served on Metro Council, they would have the same rules and the same rules of order for the most part, that they would have to follow to be in compliance.
What was your goal in presiding over this and considering the resolution and in your leadership? And do you believe you accomplished that goal?
Well, the goal is to follow the Constitution, which is what we did. And so we did. There was no ability to suspend them. We were made clear of that through various state officials. We could censure or expel as a body. I did not think censure was enough. I thought expulsion was. The Constitution laid out that process, due process. They need to have their data be heard. They need to be able to make statements. They need to have attorneys there if they want to, and the members need to be able to question them. And so that's what we did. There's a lot of questions around saying, well, why didn't you take this to the Ethics Committee? Why didn't it go to the Ethics Committee for investigation before the House floor? Because, Matt, this was not an ethics violation. This was a violation of the state constitution and the House rules, and they violated their oath of office because in the oath of office, you're supposed to uphold the state constitution. So that's what we did. My ability was as Speaker is to control, make sure we maintain control and decorum, and that they were able to make their case and members would make their case, make sure we follow the procedures. I think if you watched it, there's a lot of questions about procedures, and we followed those, and we put a vote up. And so, 2 were expelled, 1 came very close. Those were the votes. And then come back Monday, we come back, we start working on policy and continue to do what's good for Tennessee and also protecting Tennessee children.
Do the optics concern you at all? Because immediately the rabble-rousers said that the 2 that were expelled were black, the 1 that wasn't was white. Does that concern you at all?
No, because it's not true. And you know that that's going to happen with the national media. The story was written regardless if they were expelled or not expelled. The national media already know which way they're going. They know which direction they're going. They knew if all 3 were expelled, the story was going to be this, and the headline was going to be this. If it's just 2 and 1, that's this. So that was already predetermined on their part. Gloria Johnson already knew what she was going to say if she walked out. And so you can't worry about that. What you worry about is, was it fair? Did you follow the Constitution? Did you follow the procedures and the policy of the House? And did you put it up for a vote? At the end, we did all those sorts of things. And Gloria Johnson was the one who decided, you know what, I'm not them. I did this different. I didn't use the bullhorn. I didn't pound the podium. I didn't yell and scream. She's the one that separated herself from those 2 in an attempt to save herself. She did not say.
Yeah, she ditched her 2 colleagues. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
That's right.
Yeah. And finally, and I know we're running late, and I apologize, Chris, but one more question for the Speaker. Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, with us on the drive. So the ultimate thing that these 3 were demanding that the House stop all of its business and discuss was, there was a March for Our Lives rally. There were a lot of young people at the state capitol protesting, as is their right, and I know that you support that, and I do too. Peaceful protest is a hallmark of the United States of America and the state of Tennessee. But ultimately, they were fussing about assault weapons and gun control. Can you explain to those who are choosing not to understand why, as Speaker, you cannot simply drop everything else that's going on in the calendar and the body and address that? And frankly, there was no bill to even address, so I kind of understand it, but I want to make sure that everyone else understands it as well, why they were in violation of the rules.
There's 2 parts to your question. One is, if you have legislation, that's how you affect change, that's how you pass policy. Legislation has to go through the committee system. Legislation does not come straight to the floor. So even though they're saying we need to do action, you have to do it in the committee system. You can't do it on the House floor. It has to have a process. Everything's about process and procedure. What they were also complaining about is their voices be silent, because when you're on the House floor, you have to, if there's a bill in front of you and it's dealing with radio broadcasters, and that's what the bill deals with, you can only discuss what that topic is based on that bill. You cannot go off that. What they wanted to do always is take the radio broadcaster bill and say, we need to ban weapons. We need to do guns. We got to do more. That is out of order. They got ruled out of order. Their mics get cut off. I called them out of order. I asked them, if you want to continue to talk, you have to stay on the topic of the bill that's in front of you. You cannot veer off. And I recognize them again. If they go again off topic, then I rule them out of order and I move to the next person on the list. That's the process. That was the process when I went in. That was the process when other people went in. That was the process. And that's how you do it. That you have to follow the rules, and everybody follows the rules. They did not want to follow the rules. They don't want to follow the rules when they're talking about bills. They don't want to follow the rules when they're in committee. They don't want to follow the rules on the House floor, and they wanted to commandeer the well to make themselves look important and lead a protest on the House floor when they knew that was inappropriate, because at the end of the day, they asked their leadership, do you think we're going to get arrested? And so when you make that comment, you know that you have done something grossly wrong with disruptive behavior that may get you arrested. If you have to ask that question, there's no doubt what you did was premeditated. You knew what you were doing. You snuck a bullhorn on the House floor, and you led a protest.
Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, joining us for the better part of about 22 minutes here on The Drive with Matt Murphy. Thank you, Cameron, for your leadership, and thank you for the conversation today. We'll talk again very soon, and may I wish you and your family a very happy Easter.
Yes, sir. You too. Thanks, Matt.
All right, take care. There's Cameron Sexton. Back in a moment. Very late. It's The Drive.
.5:30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 60 degrees in Nashville. Going to be a cloudy and rainy weekend, but Easter Sunday looks like it'll clear up. Weather and traffic in about 5 minutes. Vice President Kamala Harris has now arrived at Fisk University in North Nashville. This will have an effect on traffic through the rest of the evening near the city, with rolling roadblocks to take place. Yesterday, two now former representatives, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, two young black men, were voted to be expelled from the Tennessee House, while Gloria Johnson, a white woman, survived her expulsion vote, with 7 Republicans switching to her favor. Johnson has claimed race is the reason she survived. Representative Jody Barrett was one of the 7 who flipped and has said he plans to file a complaint, as he believes her alleging that is a violation of an ethics rule. House Speaker Cameron Sexton joined the drive on WTN and spoke to why he thinks Johnson's actions during session and during her defense and after don't all add up.
She actually said, I didn't do what these two did. They said, I did not use the bullhorn that they used on the House floor. I did not pound the podium. I did not sit on the podium. I did not yell and scream. And so she distanced herself. She goes, I'm here to talk about me. This is about me, not about them. And she tried to distance herself from them, only to go out later and try to say the only reason that she was not expelled is because the color of her skin, which is not true at all.
And Sexton doubled down on that race angle from the national media and Gloria Johnson, saying it doesn't concern him because, again, it's not true. Then there's a good chance that these two former representatives do get voted back into the House of Representatives here in Tennessee. And some big sports news here in Nashville. The Tennessee Titans have extended Pro Bowl defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons, Big Jeff, with a 4-year, $94 million deal. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
The Biden administration is taking a victory lap on Afghanistan. Yes, you heard me correctly. We'll talk about that at some point during the 6 o'clock hour. The Drive with Brian Wilson, and no Brian Wilson. Brian is off today, celebrating Good Friday, and happy Easter to all of you. He'll be back Monday, and I'll be back in my normal spot from noon until 3 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Right now, the vice president is in town speaking at Fisk University with the Bullhorn Trio. I mean, I suppose, are they going to let Gloria Johnson in? She threw the other two under the bus, right? I mean, her argument was, I didn't do what they did. And it's amazing that they're just ignoring that. Her argument, and it worked for enough of the Tennessee legislature, said, I didn't slam my fist down on the podium. I was in the well, but I didn't use the bullhorn, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, so Gloria threw them under the bus and then went outside in the rotunda, and all of those who pulled them out from under the bus, pulled her out from under the bus, she threw them under the bus. So she threw those that saved them from the bus under the bus. Y'all follow? Yeah, it's a confusing situation. So the question, and we've asked a number of lawmakers to come on, and we spoke with Jody Barrett a couple of hours ago about this matter. The question is, what about Gloria Johnson's testimony, if that's what you want to call it, or what about her witness compelled 7 of the members who voted to oust Jones and oust Pearson to allow her to stay. Brian Ritchie was one of those individuals, and Representative Ritchie's done a lot of interviews today, and he's been gracious enough to join us on The Drive with Matt Murphy on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Representative, good afternoon. Thank you for being on with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. You and I don't know one another, but I want you an opportunity before we get into the details of this. You represent Blount County. Tell us, how long have you been a representative, and just give us a little about the community that you serve.
Yeah, so this is the first time I've ever run for office. I got elected back in November. I ran against a 14-year incumbent, defeated him in the primary, and then was unopposed in November. And so I've just been elected since this past general election. The makeup I represent about half of Blount County population: Maryville, Friendsville, Louisville, a sliver of Alcoa, but most of Maryville City, going west, the western portion of Blount County.
Well, you picked a heck of a session to come in as a freshman. I'll tell you that. I just got into Nashville last year, about 16 months ago, and last session it was kind of boring. I was like, boy, this is the way Tennessee legislature does things. This year, not so much. Talk to us about the decision process from your perspective. Let's start with the 2 that you voted to expel. What was the compelling conversation and the compelling piece that led you to a vote of expulsion?
So I only voted yes for Justin Jones. I voted no for Gloria Johnson and Justin Pearson.
Okay, very good.
I shared with leadership on Thursday of last week, after the ridiculous event that took place up there on our House floor, that I felt that they deserved the harshest, strictest penalty that we could give them, just short of expulsion. And even though Article 2, Section 12 states for disorderly conduct that can be expelled, was it disorderly 100%? Did it rise to the level that it deserved expulsion? And then how I took a step back from it is I went back and watched the video, and the speaker gavelled them out of order. And then about 2.5 seconds later, he gavelled into recess. So in my opinion, my mind on judging these 3 individuals, did what they did during those 2.5 seconds lead to them having their seats pulled from them in the Tennessee General Assembly? And my opinion was no. The only reason why I voted yes for Justin Jones was basically honoring his wishes. His office is right next door to mine, and I spoke to him a couple times this week, and I shared with him, hey, I'm not in favor of kicking you out. I think this is the wrong thing to do. And he shared, this is going to amplify my voice. I'm already nationwide on CNN. And I shared, I talked to Representative Hemmer, and he said that your Twitter account went from 25,000 to 50,000. And Justin said, Representative Jones said, and when y'all kick me out tomorrow, it's going to explode even higher than that. And if you look at it, as of last night, I think he was over 150,000. So he had tripled yesterday. And
wait, so I'm trying to get you straight. So you did Justin Jones a favor?
Well, he was asking me to vote for him because he said he had already spoken with Metro City Council and that they were going to reappoint him to the position. He told me he had already spoken with his primary opponent and that she was behind him as well or something. And so he was confident that if he got expelled, he was going to end up getting reappointed. So in my mind, he did not deserve to be expelled, but he was asking me without coming out and saying, hey, vote to kick me out. That was what he was wanting, was to get kicked out. So I was like, well, who am I to deprive this guy of what he's wanting to do and what he's wanting to accomplish? So that was.
Well, I think you ought to be a representative for your people and do what you are bound to do by the Tennessee Constitution and the rules of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, that's what I did.
But you chose not to do that. But without him admonishing you that he wanted you to do that, you just said you wouldn't have expelled him.
So taking all of the stuff into consideration, I was not in favor of expelling any of them after speaking with him and him saying that that's what he wanted and this is what all the outcome of what was going to end up coming.
Let me ask you this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let me ask you this. You mentioned the 2.5 seconds, and I understand. So what the representative is talking about there, that they are bound by the rules not to gather in the well while in session out of order. And they did that. And you mentioned it was about 2.5 seconds after they began speaking that the speaker gavelled into recess. Do I have that right?
Correct.
So what if they had continued talking and actually convinced the gallery to breach the floor of the House of Representatives? Would that have merited an expulsion?
I think with what they did overall, if we hadn't gone to recess, in my opinion, it could have breached for expulsion. But in just those 2.5 seconds, no. But because we were gavelled into recess,
Wait, so you're saying a House of Representatives member, as long as there's recess, can violate any rule that they want, and it doesn't merit expulsion?
When you look at the rules of decorum, there was no gaveling at that point. We were in recess.
So the question again is, you're telling me that a sitting House of Representatives member can't do anything to merit expulsion on the floor outside during recess?
I believe that under the Tennessee Constitution, that would end up falling under the argument that the representative shared, that they have the right to protest with folks or adjourn and juris, whatever they were stating. That I believe it's 27 is what they're referencing title.
So you're agreeing with the ones that just got expelled?
No, I am not agreeing with them.
You most certainly are. You just said that it falls under what their argument was.
After we were out of recess, that falls in the line with that. Correct.
So it's you're sitting here, Representative Brian Ritchie, telling me that it is the fault of the Speaker of the House that you did not vote for expulsion.
I didn't say it was the fault of the Speaker of the House.
You most certainly did. He's the one. Did or did not the Speaker of the House declare recess?
He did.
And had he not declared recess, would they have been expelled, in your opinion?
Yes.
So it's because the Speaker declared a recess that you did not vote for expulsion?
No.
Explain that to me.
So you're trying to say that
I'm not trying to say anything. I'm repeating what you have said to me.
So what I said, and what you tried twisting just now, is that during those 2.5 seconds it was disorderly. Was it at the level of expulsion? In my opinion, no. If we had not gavelled into recess and they continued with what they did, then that would have rose to the level of that. But because we went into recess, then, in my opinion, they were protected by.
Why did the Speaker gavel recess?
I did not ask him why he gavelled recess.
Just use the brain that God gave you and try to figure it out. Why did the Speaker gavel recess, in your opinion?
In my opinion, whenever we go into recess, all of the public audio and video transmissions are cut off. I don't know if that's what went through the Speaker's head, but that's one reason that could end up happening.
Brian, just me and you talking. Just give me a guess. Just give me a guess. Why do you think the Speaker went into recess at the moment that he did?
he went into recess and immediately. So what I think, he went into recess and he immediately said, "Leadership, come up here," because he wanted to try to figure out how to address the situation.
Okay, so is it possible in your mind the speaker went into recess because the three individuals were in clear violation of the rules and he was trying to create order? Is that possible?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. He went into recess because they were out of order.
Uh-huh. And had he not gone into recess, you would have voted to expel all three.
Correct.
And you only voted to expel Justin Jones because he asked you to.
He didn't come out specifically and say that, but that was what he was alluding to. Correct.
Well, I mean, questions asked and questions answered. Any other thoughts on the expulsion of the two individuals from last night?
No, I fully anticipate them being back in the House of Representatives. I shared that with the Speaker and Leader Lambert and Chairman Faison and several other members of leadership, that I didn't think that they needed to be expelled because they would end up getting reelected and be right back in, and it didn't make sense to go through this particular process when they would end up being right back in. And what was shared with me from multiple people is we have to set a precedent that this can't happen. They're on the floor, and that we need that precedent has to be set with the harshest penalty that is available, which would be expulsion. And I don't agree with that when it was 2.5 seconds that we were judging on.
Brian, I wish you well in your future career, and I wish you a great and long career in the Tennessee House of Representatives. Somehow I believe that might not be the case, though.
Well, the good news is when I ran, I said I was running to get rid of the 14-year career politician, and that I probably wasn't going to run for re-election, and that's why I can speak the truth. And honestly, wherever I'm at, and I don't care what any political pundits or political division that's out there.
No, that's cool. I mean, no, look, we're look. If I see you on the street, we're buddies. That's all good. I mean, you have your opinions, and the people have theirs, and hopefully the people of your district in Blount County, and they'll let you know what they think about it.
Yep. Have a good one.
All right. You too, buddy. There's Brian Ritchie joining us for a few moments. I mean, I don't think I'm mischaracterizing what just happened here. Ritchie explained that if you disrupt the well with enough effectiveness, if you break the rules enough that they have to declare a recess, that anything that happens after that rule breaking when recess is declared is fair game. I did. I mean, I'll give old boy credit. It takes a lot to leave me speechless, but that certainly has done it. We'll get some of your thoughts coming up in a moment. It is 5:50. A break coming none too soon on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Another one of the 7 Republican Tennessee lawmakers that flipped on the votes between Jones, Pearson, and Gloria Johnson joined the drive. He gave his reasoning for flipping. We'll talk about it. 6 o'clock.
He said he wanted to. No, I'll let Matt Maury tell you for those who missed it. I don't want to steal your tease there, Maury. Coming up in the 6 o'clock hour too, we'll have an opportunity to get away from the political nonsense. Maybe have a Friday Mac Attack if you're up for it. I want a Friday Mac Attack with a Masters theme to it. I think we need to play a game of Stump the Chump. I think I have enough Masters knowledge that none of the listening audience nor you two can stump me, and that would be me the chump. So maybe we'll play a game of Stump the Chump. I don't know.
You wouldn't have to worry about me stumping you because I don't know anything about golf.
Chris, they serve pimento cheese sandwiches. I know that.
That was delicious, by the way.
Oh, man. It was pretty good. But not as good as it is on course, though. I agree that on course there's a little bit of a difference. Augusta National took some damage this afternoon due to the storms. We experienced those storms about a day before they did, and they had some major trees down on the course. They had suspended play, obviously.
Wow.
And I fully expect that the Augusta National Golf Club will have those trees not only cleaned up, but replaced by tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. It'll look like it never happened.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. They seriously, on that same hole, on hole 17, that's called the Eisenhower hole. And it's called the Eisenhower tree because Dwight D. Eisenhower, the former president of the United States of America, who is a member of Augusta National Golf Club, he would hook the ball and he would hook it into that tree. It was a big, stately, like oak or something like that. And he went to the Clifford Roberts and the other members and said, "I want this tree removed." and they told him no.
Wow.
No, they said no. We're not having it removed.
Good for them.
So forevermore, it was known as Eisenhower's tree. Well, it grew old and died, and they said, "Oh, well, no more Eisenhower tree. Oh, that's so sad. It's been announced the Eisenhower tree is dead. The once stately tree that was a part of the hole 17 for so many years." The next year, they had replaced it with a full-grown tree.
Really?
I'm talking about like a 70-foot tall tree.
Wow.
Had replaced the tree.
I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't either. So, fully expect that the horticulturalists over at Augusta National are currently preparing to replace those trees. Anyway, let me get to a few of your calls. Reactions to, Representative Brian Ritchie, who said he would have voted against expulsion for all 3 because the speaker called a recess like 2.5 seconds after they got to the well. And he did not vote to expel Jones. Sorry, Mac, I got to go there.
No, yeah, yep.
But he did not vote to expel Jones because Jones asked him to expel him so as to raise his profile. So he decided to do what Jones wanted him to do, even though he didn't believe that what he did rose to the level of expulsion. So understand the logic here by Brian Ritchie. He was not going to vote to expel him because it wasn't right, because they did not do something that merited expulsion, but that Justin Jones asked him to, and as a favor to Jones, even though he didn't think it was an expellable act, he voted to expel him anyway. Does that make any damn sense whatsoever? Blount County, y'all got a problem. I'm just telling you. And it's not up to me to remedy your problem. I hope you remedy your problem. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know what Brian Ritchie does for a living, but I hope it ain't representing the people of Blount County because he's not very good at that. All right, 558, SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. All right, I'll tell you what we'll do. First up, telephone calls and maybe a little Mac Attack because a lot of you want to comment on the interview with Brian Ritchie. We'll do that next. It is SuperTalk 99.7 WTN and The Drive.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 59 degrees in Nashville. Going to be a rainy Easter weekend, but Easter Sunday should be a little more clear. Weather and traffic in just a few minutes. Vice President Kamala Harris in Nashville right now speaking at Fisk University in support of Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson. The effect that her appearance here is going to have on traffic is going to be clear and abundant. Rolling roadblocks will take place when she heads back to BNA. We'll try and keep an eye on the roads for you as best we can. Stay in touch with SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Yesterday, two now former representatives, Jones and Pearson, two young black men, were voted to be expelled, while Gloria Johnson, a white woman, survived her expulsion vote, with 7 Republicans switching to her favor. Johnson and other Tennessee Democrat lawmakers have claimed race as the reason she survived and the others were voted out. One of those 7 Republicans that flipped was Representative Brian Ritchie. He came on the drive on WTN, gave his reasoning, saying he was not going to expel them at all because he didn't think it was an expellable act until Jones spoke to him.
The only reason why I voted yes for Justin Jones was basically honoring his wishes. His office is right next door to mine, and I spoke to him a couple times this week, and I shared with him, hey, I'm not in favor of kicking you out. I think this is the wrong thing to do. And he shared, this is going to amplify my voice. I'm already nationwide on CNN, and I shared, I talked to Representative Hemmer, and he said that your Twitter account went from 25,000 to 50,000, and Justin said, Representative Jones said, and when y'all kick me out tomorrow, it's going to explode even higher than that. And if you look at it, as of last night, I think he was over 150,000.
A majority of Metro Council members say they will vote to reinstate Jones to the Nashville seat. That vote could be as soon as on Monday. And VP Harris confirmed at the beginning of her speech at Fisk University tonight that President Biden approved of the federal assistance for tornado recovery in Tennessee that 10 counties will receive. And amid more violence in the Middle East, 1 person has been killed and 6 wounded in a vehicle attack in Tel Aviv. Here's Sherry Preston.
The Israeli Foreign Ministry calls it a terror attack, a car ramming into a group of people near a popular park in Tel Aviv. Israel uses the term terror attack to describe any assaults by Palestinians. The incident happening amid heightened tensions that began with clashes at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and escalated after 2 Israelis were shot in the West Bank and Israeli airstrikes hit Palestinian targets in both Lebanon and Gaza.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
The Vice President of the United States made an address at Fisk University earlier today. There was a decision point to be made by the guest host of The Drive. And I think I did Brian Wilson proud because I played not a second of it. You're welcome. Brian Wilson not here today. We're in the final hour of The Drive for this week. It is Easter weekend. It is Good Friday, and Sunday is Easter. And for all of you of the Christian faith who celebrate and commemorate and everything that goes into the holiday, I wish you a wonderful Easter and a very good Friday. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number if you'd like to be a part of the show. We suspend Friday Mac Attack because so many of you want to comment on a conversation that we just finished up with Representative Brian Ritchie. So I think I need to start here. And, I think what I need to do is start by turning down the volume of this television. I had this up. I was listening to the final moments of the vice presidential speech. She's quagging traffic all through Nashville. She decided to come. I mean, I cannot say this enough, and I say it as a fact without comment. The Vice President of the United States of America, less than 2 weeks after a school shooting that took the lives of 6 people, including 3 9-year-old children, came to Nashville, Tennessee. Her purpose, to support 2 representatives who have been expelled from the Tennessee General Assembly because they could not follow the rules. In coming to Nashville, Tennessee, she has not, and to my knowledge, will not meet with any of the teachers of Covenant School, any of the staff members of Covenant School, any of the families of Covenant School, any of the families of those who lost their lives of Covenant School, any of the police officers who protected lives in Covenant School, any of the administrators who trained the police officers who protected and saved lives at Covenant School. I state that as a statement of fact without comment. We spoke to Jody Barrett regarding the expulsion of these 2 members earlier today. You can find that up. By the way, I haven't mentioned this, but Talk TV is up and running, and you can always catch us over there. And if you miss any portion of the show, I know that Chris Webber does a great job of podcasting and the like, but I'm the replacement guy, so I don't know how well that goes during the replacement period.
Oh well, there's plenty to podcast about today, so never fear.
It's either up on the podcast on 997wtn.com, or you can always, and this is one of the features of the YouTube and Facebook that I really like, if you miss any portion of The Drive or any portion of the Matt Murphy Show or any portion of any broadcast of our day, you can go back on YouTube and Facebook, and it's there, and you can watch all of it or listen to all of it right there, available to you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and, of course, Twitch. 615-737-9986. Let's see who's first. Gabe is first up this hour on The Drive on a First Amendment Freestyle Friday. Hello, Gabe. Gabe.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great, Gabe. Hope you are.
Yes, sir. First-time caller. Excited to be here with you. I was sitting there listening as he was talking, and it reminded me of a recent experience. Murray County has been up at the state legislature quite a bit recently, and Brian Ritchie, the reason he ran was when CWD was outlawed, or the doe urine, because of CWD, it shut his business down, and he vowed to go to the legislature and make change. And it's interesting as you listen to what he said. He didn't represent the people. He didn't represent his own conscience. He asked what Representative Jones wanted him to do. And as an elected official, I was blown away with what he said.
Yeah, I hope that people feel like at least the beginning of the interview or all of the interview was fairly engaged. But what flabbergasted me, you just hit on it, Gabe. He said at the beginning that he did not believe that what they did rose to the level of expulsion. That is a legitimate position. And I think you might have a hard task explaining that to your district, but it's legitimate to say, and frankly, I've gone back and forth as to whether or not you're giving these people what they want by expelling them, but you said you had that position and you believed one thing, and Justin Jones asked you to expel him so that he could get more Twitter followers, and you did it.
Exactly. You know, and I think if you go back and, you know, I agree with what you said. Blount County, you're not being represented by your representative. And it's one thing to have a stance. It's another thing to do what a member is asking you to do to further, you know, the big three, the Tennessee three, in that whole platform. And, I mean, it's really a sad position to be at.
Well, I just, like I said last hour, I'm flabbergasted, and I at very least, because I don't think Representative Brian Ritchie is going to be around very long. I believe that Brian Ritchie will be primaried. I believe that Brian Ritchie will be defeated, and rightly so. And if there's anything that I can do to facilitate or aid in that endeavor, I will do it, because I think there are I've never been to Blount County, to my knowledge. Is it Maryville over there? I just looked it up. About 135,000 people in Blount County. Surely there's somebody smarter than Brian Ritchie. Surely. By the way, traffic is an absolute snarl. Let me get here, and I'll go back to your calls. It is a snarl because of the presence of Vice President Kamala Harris in our community. I would like to, I don't know what to tell you to do. I know that many of you are, actually, I just pulled this one up. Please point out that Harris has screwed up holiday travel for everyone at B&A. One of our service guys sat in traffic for over an hour, losing money every minute because of her. Pretty sure I care more about his kids eating than a bunch of race-pimping lefties. You know what? It would be one thing for the vice president to come into town to visit with some of the heroes of Covenant. It's another thing for her to do this to rouse the emotions of race baiters in our community. And that is what she is doing, in my opinion. So just be careful if you're on the roadways. I accidentally, hold on, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I pulled down my SmartWays app. Let's see. Okie dokie. Right now, I guess we haven't had an update, but anything anywhere near Fisk University, which is right there to the west of the downtown area, just south of I-40, is going to be an absolute quag because those portions of the road on I-40 have been, if not shut down now, they will be shut down soon. Then you don't know which route they're going to go because they don't tell you. That's intentional, and that's understandable. They don't want to know. They don't want the bad guys to know which way their motorcade is going. If they go back the way they came, they'll go on 440, and that'll snarl 440 until they get to the airport. Otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. Right now, traffic looks, well, my map says relatively normal. Are you looking at the same thing?
Yeah, but it can be deceiving, though, because they shut everything down, and they turn all the cameras off, so we can't really monitor and see what's happening if there's traffic sitting. I would assume that if it's showing there's no traffic because there's probably no cars on that
I think
road.
You just hit on something. I don't know what the technology is, and I might try to get somebody that can explain this to us. I bet you they use the cameras as a resource to indicate to us on the map what's green, what's yellow, what's red. I bet you there's a technology. Yeah. And if they turn the cameras off, everything turns green.
Right.
Because right now, at 6:14 in the evening, I'm looking at a map that has the loop all green.
Yeah. And it's possible. I mean, today is Good Friday.
Maybe.
Several people were off of work today, so it could be lighter traffic than normal today. But I highly doubt that this is 100% accurate, what we're seeing. And we really have no way of knowing unless, we had word from someone who's stuck somewhere.
Police activity, Interstate 40 westbound in Davidson. There's police activity. All westbound lanes are blocked, and an exit ramp is closed. That is by the way, the exit there off of 40 to Fisk University, and that is the reason for that road closure. Kamala Harris will probably shake hands for a little while. I don't expect that her motorcade will leave out anytime soon. So there you go. Adam is on the road. He is next on.
Kamala Harris will probably.
Adam, I'm going to tell you, you're obviously. Oh, can I put him?
That her motorcade will leave out.
Well, let me put him back on hold.
I got it.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to put him back on hold. Adam, you're going to hear me say you need to turn your radio down, and when you do, Turn it down. You listen on your phone, and then we'll get back to you. Donna is in Murfreesboro. Donna, thank you for your call. Hello, Donna.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that the vice president is a disgrace because she hasn't said anything to the families, the police, or any of the teachers that helped with all this tragedy. And I also want to say that I think that all three of those should be punished because, say, for instance, you're at work and no fireworks are allowed at work, so they brought fireworks in.
No fireworks at work?
Just for, just
Oh, no, I see what, I see the analogy. Donna, thank you for the call. I appreciate you out in Murfreesboro. 6801 on the super text line indicate this is good. I like where this is going. You know who we need to blame for this traffic problem?
Who's that?
Brian Ritchie. Because Brian Ritchie had to get Justin Jones Twitter followers because he decided to get him Twitter followers. Now we got Kamala Harris in town screwing up our traffic. Brian Ritchie, it's your fault. I would also like to take an opportunity. Jody Barrett and I had a conversation earlier, and you can listen to that on the podcast. You can also listen on the various TV platforms. And you know what? I thought Jody answered a couple of questions. It was just a little, I don't want to say stupidly. Let's put it this way. I was not that impressed with Jody Barrett's reasoning behind why he chose to not vote Gloria Johnson expelled. And then Brian Ritchie came along and was like, hold my beer. Brian Ritchie made Jody Barrett's explanation look pretty good. I mean, he turned Barrett into Matlock. Adam's on the road. Adam, are you back there? You got your radio turned down now?
I mean, he turned Barrett into Matlock.
Adam still hadn't gotten it. Here, put him back on hold. I can't seem to put him on hold from over here. Dan is next. Adam, I'm telling you, I'm trying to go to you, buddy, and you keep that radio up, and we're just going to keep doing this again and again and again until 7 o'clock gets here. Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm fine. Hey, I want to congratulate you for exposing that idiot.
Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. That's what I do for a living.
I mean, I was so stunned, but I wanted to tell you, I think you exposed something else. Those 6 or 7 people that changed their votes, that's what's wrong with the Republican Party. They're not on the same page. They're not organized. The Democrats are out to kill, man. And the Republicans, I don't know what you call it, they don't play hardball. If the Democrats were in charge of this, the 3 Republicans would have been gone.
Well,
Look what happened
you think
January 6th.
No, you're exact. You think for a second, if Republicans had tried to take over a Democrat-run House of Representatives, they wouldn't have been run out of town on a rail. I mean, Dan, you're exactly right. Of course they would have been run out of town on a rail. Democrats play hardball, and Republicans sit on their softballs. Well, I think it's time that we stop. Let's see. One more time, Adam.
Softballs.
Okay, Adam, I'm just going to hang up on you. I mean, third time's a charm. Going once, going twice, and a goodbye to you. Nick is in Franklin. Hey, Nick, how are you?
Matt, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
I can honestly say in the 4 years that I've been listening to WTN that this is the first time that my mouth would. I didn't know what to say.
That makes two of us.
I don't know if that is. I don't know if it's actually him. I mean, are we positive that that's Brian Ritchie?
Well, I've never spoken to Brian Ritchie, so I can't really say that wasn't some Brian Ritchie impersonator. That might have been the dude that's going to run against Brian Ritchie in the next election cycle, posing as Brian Ritchie. I think you're onto something, Nick.
I'm just absolutely lost for words that he would justify giving Jones the platform and for Twitter followers because he asked for it. That's shame. It's shameful.
You know, there was no doubt, Dick. I mean, I appreciate the call. There's an analogy that comes to mind, and I tell you what, I'm going to take a break. I want to go over this in my head to make sure that I want to use it because I don't want to diminish. I don't want to use an analogy and be accused of being cold-hearted on issues. But I want to think about that because Brian Ritchie told us that he didn't believe somebody did something wrong to merit the punishment that it was getting, but they said they wanted it, so he gave it to them. I mean, it sounds like a domestic abuser. I'll go ahead and say it. Well, she didn't do anything wrong, but she mouthed off. She said she wanted it. So I cannot believe that this is a sitting representative in the state of Tennessee. And by the way, I would note, I've met a lot of the representatives sitting in that General Assembly. I've met a lot of the senators, and they are a lot of good and smart people. Look, Heidi Campbell, I disagree with Heidi Campbell on most everything. But I think she's a smart person. So this is not a partisan issue, certainly. Something's got to be done. It's 622, SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Vice President Kamala Harris in Nashville right now at Fisk University. That's going to affect traffic. We'll let you know about that coming up at 6:30. Plus, we hear from one of the 7 Republicans who flipped their votes in favor of Gloria Johnson, Brian Ritchie. That and more, 6:30, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
You know, the thought occurs to me, Mac Morey.
Yeah.
Originally, we were doing Mac Attack at 6.
Little Mac Attack.
And I know your day is split. You work long hours, and normally after your last newscast, you boogie. But, I mean, why boogie? Kamala Harris is screwing up your drive home anyway, right, Chris?
Might not be able to boogie anyway.
Might as well just stick around till 7 o'clock. We can talk Masters. You know, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
for those who missed the Brian Ritchie,
Look at his face.
for those who missed the Brian, he's let me see him over there. That's a good idea, right?
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah,
I would
you
love
see.
that.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. For those who missed the Brian Ritchie, I think Chris is working on a little something to help you understand exactly what Representative Ritchie had to say about it. Let's just listen to a sample of our conversation with Representative Brian Ritchie.
The only reason why I voted yes for Justin Jones was basically honoring his wishes. His office is right next door to mine, and I spoke to him a couple times this week, and I shared with him, hey, I'm not in favor of kicking you out. I think this is the wrong thing to do. And he shared, this is going to amplify my voice. I'm already nationwide on CNN. And I shared, I talked to Representative Hemmer, and he said that your Twitter account went from 25,000 to 50,000. And Justin said, Representative Jones said, and when y'all kick me out tomorrow, it's going to explode even higher than that. And if you look at it, as of last night, I think he was over 150,000. So he had tripled yesterday. And
wait a minute, so I'm trying to get you straight. So you did Justin Jones a favor?
Well, he was asking me to vote for him because he said he had already spoken with Metro City Council and that they were going to reappoint him to the position. He told me he had already spoken with his primary opponent and that she was behind him as well or something. And so he was confident that if he got expelled, he was going to end up getting reappointed. So in my mind, he did not deserve to be expelled, but he was asking me without coming out and saying, hey, vote to kick me out. That was what he was wanting, was to get kicked out. So I was like, well, who am I to deprive this guy of what he's wanting to do and what he's wanting to accomplish?
Well, there's Representative Brian Ritchie's explanation as to why he wanted to, his words now, honor the wishes of the dishonorable Representative Justin Jones. Makes sense to me. DT's in Watertown. DT, does it make sense to you? Hello, DT.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
I can't believe that idiot up there in Marable says what he does.
Well,
that's where
it is what it is.
That's where the governor come from to raise the income tax in Tennessee. The same place.
DT, what are you doing out there in Watertown tonight?
Just sitting around.
Yeah.
But
if I drove out to Watertown tonight, avoid all this traffic, got on the front porch with you, would you pour me a cold one?
Yeah, buddy. In a heartbeat.
I'm on it, man. I'll see you in a little bit, DT. I got to go now because I got to go to the news. Mac Morey says I have to go to the news. Otherwise, I'd continue talking to DT. And
would you choose a Bud Light or would you choose more?
Oh, nice.
He's got jokes and news.
6:31, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 58 degrees. Going to be a rainy weekend. Scatter showers expected tonight into tomorrow and tomorrow night. Easter Sunday going to be a little bit clear. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes away. Vice President Kamala Harris in Nashville at Fisk University speaking in support of Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson. And this is going to have a big effect on traffic whenever she does head back to BNA. It looks like she has finished speaking at Fisk University, so that traffic and those rolling roadblocks are going to start taking place again. Yesterday, two now former representatives, Jones and Pearson, two young black men, were voted to be expelled, while Johnson, a white woman, survived her expulsion vote with 7 Republicans switching to her favor. Johnson and other Tennessee Democrat lawmakers have claimed race as the reason she survived and the others were voted out. One of those 7 Republicans that flipped was Representative Brian Ritchie. He came on the drive on WTN. He gave his reasoning, saying he wasn't going to expel them because he didn't think it was an expellable act. But then Jones spoke to him, asking for him to vote him out.
Essentially, he was asking me to vote for him because he said he had already spoken with Metro City Council and that they were going to reappoint him to the position. He had already spoken. He told me he had already spoken with his primary opponent and that she was behind him as well, or something. And so he was confident that if he got expelled, he was going to end up getting reappointed. So in my mind, he did not deserve to be expelled, but he was asking me without coming out and saying, "Hey, vote to kick me out." That was what he was wanting, was to get kicked out. So I was like, "Well, who am I to deprive this guy of what he's wanting to do and what he's wanting to accomplish?"
A majority of Metro Council members say they will vote to reinstate Jones to the Nashville seat. That vote could be as soon as Monday. And Vice President Harris confirmed during the beginning of her speech at Fisk University tonight that President Biden approved of the federal assistance for tornado recovery that's going to Tennessee. 10 counties in Tennessee will receive that FEMA aid. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather coming up. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, enjoying all of your comments on the Super Text line. We'll try to get to as many calls as we possibly can. After all, it's a First Amendment Freestyle Friday. This is The Drive. Brian Wilson normally in the saddle. He's off today. Matt Murphy subbing in for him. Normally you can hear me from noon until 3 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. For those who listen in the afternoon hours and you're at work during the day and you're not able to catch me, I do one of those interviews like with Brian Ritchie almost every day. So, I mean, see what you're missing? So that's just a daily occurrence. By the way, Chris Webber, I looked down for a second. Have you looked behind you?
Oh, yeah. It's dark.
Every night.
Yeah.
So I like the way he played that. It's pretty slick. I said, hey, traffic's going to be awful anyway. You should stick around with us and have a little fun after your last newscast. And he went, that's great. And then he just left.
Yep.
Huh.
Like literally as soon as his mic was off, he chimed in my ear. See you, man. And then he turned the lights off and he was gone. Just like that.
I can't say as I blame him. I'll do the same thing at about 7 o'clock tonight. But until then, it's me and it's you and it's SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. There are other matters, and I want to get to your calls, but I want to real quick. The victory lap being presented by the Biden administration is absolutely shameful. The victory lap on Afghanistan. And it has not gone without notice. Now, we've not focused on it because we have fish to fry that's closer to home. And obviously, the expulsion discussion, conversation, and ultimate vote prior to that, Covenant School shooting has, rightly so, sucked a lot of the air out of the room. But it is an absolute, I mean, it's unbelievable that the Biden administration is choosing to attempt to rewrite the history of the United States of America in this way.
And so for all this talk of chaos, I just didn't see it, not from my perch. At one point during the evacuation, there was an aircraft taking off full of people, Americans and Afghans alike, every 48 minutes. And not one single mission was missed. So I'm sorry, I just won't buy the whole argument of chaos.
The entire American public saw the chaos. We saw the images. We saw the videos. We happen to know that 13 American heroes died as a result of the chaos by the Biden administration. And they are, as we speak, attempting to rewrite history. Listen to this.
And so for all this talk of chaos, I just didn't see it, not from my perch.
Chaotic evacuations now unfolding, evoking the fall of Saigon in 1975.
There's hysteria. You have Taliban fighters with whips, with guns. You have U.S. and U.K. soldiers who are not allowing people in. You have mixed messaging. It is just an absolute mess.
Desperate Afghanis clinging to the hulls of U.S. military planes, some even appearing to fall to their deaths after one plane took off.
An emboldened and stronger Taliban that has greater access to weapons and technology that we supplied.
They had been going to the airport for 2 weeks, trying desperately to get out. They couldn't get past the Taliban.
Breaking news, and it's difficult. A number of U.S. service members were killed at the Kabul airport. A number of others are being treated for wounds.
Hundreds of Americans who wanted to leave, and thousands of lawful permanent residents of the United States, and countless Afghan allies have been left behind.
But just remember.
And so for all this talk of chaos, I just didn't see it. Not
from my perch. Just wanted to note that it's not gone beyond our notice that is happening. Let's get back to your phone calls. Gracie is next up in Nashville. Hello, Gracie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Well, now Richie's on my mind, but before that, I'm a little frustrated because throughout all this, I have not heard, maybe they have and I just missed it, but I have not heard any media person, nor have I heard any elected mention the fact that, one, those kids were used as pawns for a political stunt, and in the process, they were put at risk, as was the Tennessee Highway Patrol troopers who were providing security.
What you mean? Today's stunt with Kamala Harris?
No. Thursday. Last Thursday. I'm sorry. Last Thursday when Justin Jones pulled his son.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, no, obviously, they chose, and you're right on target as usual, Grace. They chose to turn an issue about young children dying and the mental illness of the individual responsible for their deaths. And look, I've said all along, I'm willing to have a conversation about gun control. I'm willing to have a conversation about banning whatever weapon you want to ban. As wrong as I think you are, I'm confident that I can speak eloquently defending the Second Amendment of the Constitution. So I'm willing to have that conversation. They didn't want to have that conversation. You're right on. They wanted to make it about themselves.
Right, but they used other people's minor children to do it and put the THP and those children at risk, all the pushing and the shoving and the spitting. And I'm sorry, spitting to me is an assault.
Amen.
You know, it just is. It's a biological assault.
Well, and I've said too. Go ahead.
They put other people's minor children at risk in all that chaos, and no one's even mentioned it.
Well, and and thank you, Grace, for the call. A lot of the parents that, Dan Mandis and I went down this past Monday. Man, it feels like it was longer than that, doesn't it? It's been a long week, boy. Dan Mandis of Nashville's Morning News, of course, and I got together at 9. We went down. This was the, this was the trip where he tried to get in the front seat of the Uber. Remember that? I told you about it. Did I tell you about that?
No.
Oh, that's right. That was me and Bell talking. So, well, let me tell this story. This is a Good Friday story for those who haven't heard it. And I especially enjoy telling this story because I know Dan was listening about 20 minutes ago. So he says, let's take an Uber down to the Capitol so that we can Uber back so we don't have to deal with parking. And that's good. Absolutely. So Dan says, you want me to get the Uber? Sure. He gets the Uber. And we get downstairs, and the Uber pulls up, and I start to get in the back. And before I can get in the back, Dan, opens the door to the front seat and starts to get in the front seat. And the Uber guy said, no. He's he had a little Indian accent. No, back. What it back? And he's like, oh, sorry. And so then Dan, I'm getting in the rear passenger door. Dan, I said, I can scoot over. He starts to get in my side. Then he walks over to the other side and gets in the other side. And as he's doing it, because there was a little bit of confusion as to whether he'd get in with me or go with it. As he's doing it, the guy said to me, first time in a car for him?
First time in a car.
Which I thought was great.
Oh,
and Dan gets in and he's like, hey, sorry. And I'm like, Norm, he's like, I just don't like being in the back. And I forget exactly what he said, and I love him. Dan, I love him. He's my boss. I hope he thinks of me as a friend because I certainly think of him that way. He's a great guy. And he's such a unique human being.
Yes.
There's nobody else like Dan Mandis. Yeah. He said, well, I like getting in the front because I don't like to be pretentious. Like
he's being chauffeured.
That's what he said. He said, I don't want to feel like I'm being chauffeured around. That is literally what is happening.
What you're doing.
That is what is happening here. So anyway, we get down there and we watch as they gather, and the walkout happened at 10:13, and they assembled a little bit later on. And Dan and I, we were together for a while, taking some pictures and watching the folks. And then he went one way and I went the other way, and he started talking to people, and I tried to talk to people as well. Just basically, why are you here kind of stuff. And there were a lot of parents that had brought their kids. So to Grace's point, while I understand what you're saying about the politicians using those children as pawns and putting them in harm's way, the parents brought their kids largely there as well. So I think there's some partial responsibility to be taken there. And every one of them said the same. When they weren't sloganeering, when they weren't chanting, no justice, no peace, or, we will not be silenced and that sort of thing, they said that they wanted gun control. Well, what kind of gun control? What do you want? What does that mean? Well, ban assault weapons. Well, for one of them, I said, we'll define assault weapons, and the conversation just devolved from there because they couldn't do it. So I decided to just skip that part of it, and the next person said, well, what do you want? Well, we wanted a ban on assault weapons. And I said politely, well, what are you going to do about the 98% of the other murders that occur with guns that aren't assault weapons. Blank stares. And one woman, I guess to her credit, said, well, we'll ban those too. And I said, what is your name? I am the mother of Brian Ritchie. No, I'm kidding. That was a joke. Elizabeth is next up in the few minutes that we have left. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm doing great. I will say, though, that my head is spinning. The fact that, all the theatrics doesn't surprise me, so it doesn't make me angry. The fact that Queen Rock, writer of Coattails, she does not surprise me being here. It doesn't make me angry because it doesn't surprise me. But what gets under my skin is the fact that all of these people, if I go on my Facebook right now and look, all of my fellow, not all of them, I have friends with common sense, but I have many friends who are posting so ashamed to be a Tennessean today, et cetera. And a few of those I've tried to engage in conversation, civil conversation, and exactly what we were just touching on. There's no logic. It is just emotion. Everything is driven with emotion. And so the only way that you're going to make progress with somebody is if you can find some kind of common ground that you agree upon and then move on from there. And so I try to ask them, well, what are you wanting? And they say gun control. And, that phrase, that no action, no peace. Okay. Well, if we think about these three elected individuals who I don't like the name Tennessee 3 either because I'm a musician and that stands for something else.
Elizabeth, I don't want to rush you, but I've only got about 20, maybe 30 more seconds,
okay.
But it's yours. Go ahead.
You're okay. Okay, well, go ahead. Can you tell me what, as an elected official, what power do they have to push forward actual action? Like they're saying, no action, no peace. So what action did they, as elected officials, have?
Well, they had not presented any bill.
Well, right.
Right. They had not. And go ahead.
No, so they lowered themselves, I feel like, to a protester level who, as a protester, you don't have a ton of power because you're not the one pushing forward bills. You're yelling what you want. And so they actually had the ability to do action, and they didn't do it. Why do all these people who are so emotionally driven not understand that?
Well, it's a great question, and it's a question that merits more than a minute to unpack. But Elizabeth, you're on the right track because they're not in it for action. They're not in it for results. They have this. Some of them understand the ultimate ramifications of what they're saying, and they understand that what they ultimately want is to seize and collect all of the weapons in the United States of America, which is an impossibility in my estimation. Elizabeth, call me back at some point down the road. I'd love to continue the conversation. It's a very well thought out one. And I apologize to those who we won't get to, but simply out of time. It's 10 until the top of the hour on The Drive.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Happy Good Friday to everyone, and I hope you all have a very happy Easter as well. All right, I'm on record as saying I don't skip stories about nakedness, Florida, Waffle House, or monkeys. This has two of the four. I'll try to give it to you as quickly as I can. So a Florida man tried to give the cops a slip, literally. A naked burglar covered in wheel-bearing grease, peppermint oil, and his own blood was caught jumping in a stranger's pool and on their trampoline in the middle of the night this past Friday. No, it gets better.
A greased up naked guy.
It gets better. It gets peppermint oil and wheel-bearing grease. Blake Talkman, 34, was likely under the influence of unknown substance. You think? According to the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, dramatic body cam footage shows the naked man taking off and jumping into an in-ground pool at a Florida home when deputies arrived for a burglary in progress around 2 a.m. I got one running westbound behind the fence. He's naked, an officer can be heard saying. Talkman leapt out of the pool and plopped face first onto a trampoline as the cop charged toward him. The man, I've seen the video. The man, lying in a starfish-like position, face down, appeared unconcerned when the deputy had threatened to tase him. It took multiple officers to handcuff the nude man, who was bleeding heavily from his head, and repeatedly shouted, "What's your name?" every time they ordered him to put his hands behind his back. "Be careful, he's slippery," said one of the officers. The homeowner came outside and said he didn't recognize the man. Tuckman allegedly broke into two homes in the neighborhood. The police accused him of smashing windows. It ultimately took 4 deputies to take him down. Police discovered he was covered in wheel-bearing grease, peppermint oil, and blood. Wow. I hope he has a happy Easter. I hope you do too. Thanks a lot, guys. Brian back on Monday. Until then, so long.